Captain, incoming message.
Intruder alert on deck 8. Enter authorization code. Command functions are offline. Automatic defense procedures initiated. Diagnostic complete. Sensors are functioning normally.
What's up, everybody? Dusting off the Trek log music. How's it going?
Been a while.
People missed it. I missed her.
Yeah, I missed it too. I was
Welcome, everybody.
Yeah, I was going to put it together, and I still missed it.
Unfortunately, Andre isn't with us today, but we do have a script doctor, a Mecha Random, and of course, Rob and myself, Tom Connors. Welcome to Midnight's Edge. We are talking Picard episodes 7 and 8, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, I gotta remember episode 7 too. No.
Yeah. Well, I think I had Rob grab some synopsises just in case we needed them.
Clear the clip of the Romulans clawing their own eyes out and shooting themselves in the head. I don't remember it.
Yeah. It's pretty lengthy synopsis, though.
We won't have to go through too much of it. We'll just kind of spark our memory. But let's get these super chats real quick out of the way. We got a few right before the show. Well, thank you so much, Nick Pruitt, for $5. Anyone feel this was originally Star Trek Mass Effect? You're not the only one to say stuff like that. Yeah. A lot of people say it feels like Mass Effect. Let's see. I know we got a couple more here. Let me see if I can find them real quick. It just jumped on me. There it is. Stargate 404 sent us $5. Mecha read spoilers last time. Tom thought they couldn't be real. If they mentioned Raffi making cake, we wouldn't have thought, no way, this is real. Sad. Yeah, those leaks evidently turned out to be real.
100% real. 100%.
I apologize to Matt. Well, I mean, I didn't really call her a liar or anything like that. But I mean, I did say, I don't know if they're real. That sounds a little out there. But of course, they were real. So, yeah, we may have a few more guests pop in as we get going, and I think I'm caught up on the super chats now. I think we only have the 2. So hopefully I didn't miss any before the show. If I did, just let me know, because Andre is not with us today, as I said. He may pop in at some point. I can't guarantee it. We got 2 from Stargate. For some reason, it only popped up 1 in the chat thing here. That's weird. Because this first one is, I couldn't believe Admiral told Picard to shut the fuck up. How dare you disrespect one of Starfleet's finest when she stands up for himself, when he stands up for himself. Infuriating. I mean, I get it. They were trying to play a little joke there with him, like, you're gonna get your way, just shut the fuck up, kind of thing.
Yeah, but it didn't help that the first time we see, and I'm gonna shout out Anti-Trekker for this. He was the first person who I heard call her Admiral Hubris. I'll just call her Admiral effing Hubris, because if we hadn't have seen that first scene in episode, was it 2, where she's like, sheer effing hubris, I don't think we would have disliked the character as much. But when our first introduction to her is dressing him down, telling him off, because, he's just an old white dude, and that seems to be the trend in current Hollywood stuff. Then,
right, in this instance, I would have let this one slide, because she's like, just shut up, I'm giving you what you want. And then that was kind of the joke. But then the later one in the last episode, when Agnes says it, it comes off so forced. Stargate sent us another $5, so now I'm completely caught up. So much for Trek being family friendly. When they start off with the 4 mothers ripping each other to shreds, would have given me nightmares as a kid. Oh yeah, and we said the same thing about what they did with Icheb and
actually the Romulan stuff was hilarious. I'm like, okay, so the stock footage that you had of a wolf and a generic android from Shutterstock, and the reused CGI of the Klingon homeworld blowing up from the projection in Discovery, where they're like, oh, this might happen, is enough to make these Romulans claw their own eyes out. Yeah.
Well, I would claw my eyes out if I had to get stuck with Star Trek 09 in my head all day long too.
Right.
But no, we did get a couple more super chats as we were talking about those. I see you also shared them with me, Mecca. Thank you so much. Try and keep up with them. We'll try and keep up with them as much as we can. Scarpads Comic Treks sent us $1.99. Giuliardi's main contribution in episode 7 was puking. Yeah,
That's
we'll
all she
get
did.
into
She
that.
threw up a few times. Yeah. Like, it's so over the top. That's right. That's all that happened in that episode, was she just kept barfing her brains out and she tried to kill herself. That's right. Now I remember it. It was the puke episode.
Yeah, she didn't really try and kill herself so much as trying to neutralize the tracker, but yeah, it almost killed her. Stephen Klein sent us $1.99. Mecha Random, you are the only beautiful flower. Well, I hope so. She's surrounded by men right now, and I don't think any of us would really feel like being called a flower. Of course, you can call me flower if you want to. Sparky News Podcast sent $2. Thank you so much, Scott. Nuts. My hate for Picard made me an OG Star Trek fan. Yeah, I don't even think you were much of a Star Trek fan before that, were you? Now, Andre has, I see a few people are asking about Andre. He has not been able to get caught up with everything going on. He hopefully will be by next week. And then we can catch up with him on what his feelings are. But as I said, we may get a few guests pop in from here and there. So we'll see how that goes. But let's start with episode 7. I don't know if Rob's back yet. I know he had to step away. But yeah, episode 7 was the episode where we had gotten to see Riker.
Nepenthe, the Troy
Nepenthe.
family homestead.
Riker's making pizza. That's
Riker's making pizza. That's right. And we learn that his son has passed away because of the stupid android law. They couldn't fix his son's problem that he had because he needed a positronic brain or whatever to help
Matrix or something.
or Matrix to cure him.
Cultivate the silicon virus for a cure or something. I don't get it.
Yeah, just to have something for them to hang up this whole. They had to tie into the situation somehow. They couldn't just be.
Yeah. I'm trying to figure out like how he got a silicon virus. Did he get like old ancient breast implants or something? Because what sort of interaction with silicon do we have that would create a virus? Like, there's no context to it.
Yeah.
Well, it wouldn't be a silicone virus either. It would be, you can't have something that's non-living have germs that cultivate and live on it. That's not how.
Yeah, that was where I was confused. It's kind of like
that's basic science. That's these people don't understand middle school science who are writing this.
Yeah, did he have like a Horta as a pet? Because that's the only living silicone life form there is. And because we're carbon-based life forms, they're not compatible. And like, if you get silicone poisoning, you'll die. But there's relatively treatments for that. And I don't get why you need a positronic matrix for silicone illnesses. It just doesn't compute.
It was just a bad attempt to shoehorn in more of this current world political crap with healthcare and bullshit like that. And like, okay, fine, we get it. It's an allegory for current healthcare system. You guys aren't smart enough to tell us that, though. That's the biggest problem. Is this is written by a bunch of people who have a basic understanding of politics and government and healthcare and structure as your average person on Twitter. So that's kind of the problem there. Like, and I'm not talking like the people who are actually experts in this field. No, you're just an average random person who sees like one little bit of it and understands, oh, Orange Man bad, got it.
Well, not only that, they missed a huge story opportunity by coming back to Riker and Picard at this point in their lives, because I think Deanna, being half Betazoid, she should be going through the phase right now. And they didn't even address that. And that would have been a juicier part for Deanna to play, because she has no hobbies aside from eating chocolate from the TNG. So what would she really be doing with her life aside from being a psychologist and, I guess, gardening on this planet? Like, they don't explore these characters at all. I bring it up in my upcoming video review for it. It was just a waste to see them.
Exactly. What would they even be doing there? So they're just going to retire? They're just going to stop working now just to raise their stupid kid in isolation? Wouldn't the kid have a better shot? Like this one new kid, wouldn't she have a better shot? I don't know, having an education somewhere, having some experience, being exposed to the galaxy. I mean, I guess since we're in this universe now, nobody really wants to.
No, they have to have a way, because their other kid died. They have to hate,
hate the Federation. Yeah,
hate the Federation.
All right, well, maybe they should have, I don't know, given us that story instead of, hey, there's a character you've never heard of. They're dead. Okay, I don't care. They're nothing to me. I don't know who this person is. You didn't bother to, I don't know, give me anything other than a photo of, Jean-Luc Picard holding a baby.
Yeah. No, I'm trying to remember. I for some reason I remember the name. Now, did they ever end up having him on the show or in the movie? They didn't, because they didn't even get married till Nemesis.
To Nemesis, yeah.
But they brought up that name. Wasn't that the name that she gave that one baby she had at one point in the show that grew up?
That was her sister.
That was her sister? Okay.
Yeah, Esther was like the sister that I guess she was haunting her as a memory, but her mother was going through. Well, it was like.
But the name, for some reason.
Oh, Thaddeus. That's from Voyager. So Riker is in the.
Oh, okay. I knew it.
Oh, okay, Thaddeus.
Sorry,
Thaddeus
I'm the casual Trek fan, folks out there. If you haven't figured that out yet, so I'm still learning everything.
It's like I've seen them all at least once, and there's a lot of stuff that I've seen more than once with Star Trek. Names and stuff I might only remember if I really, really enjoyed the episode. And yeah, so like I don't remember that one. I just remember the Kestra episode. I'm like, I know this. And I was like, oh yeah, it was the name of the daughter was named after her sister who had died.
Yeah, I knew the
but
name.
Her mother was doing this projection of I guess it manifested itself or something, or was it an alien that remembered her mother's memories or could access her mother's memories because they're telepaths. So
welcome on
manifesting
Doomed.
as a person.
Hey, how you doing?
Doing
nice
all right.
Nice to be here.
So you also have been watching this Picard business.
Oh yeah. I mean, I had high hopes for it being better than Discovery, but boy howdy was I bored with the last two ones. Those were boring. Really boring.
Better than Discovery is a very low bar to begin with, and it didn't even clear that.
Yeah, I mean, at least it's a little bit more interesting, but these two last ones, holy shit. Let's just make pizza for one episode and then have another one where, for no reason, the captain goes emo.
I think a lot of our, what do people like? They like Food Network. Okay, so we'll have Riker make pizza, I guess.
Food porn.
I'd rather watch the Food Network than Star Trek
Right?
anymore, at least it's honest.
Now I'm just sitting there thinking all the time, what does bunny corn taste like? No, I'm just kidding.
I didn't like that they show the cute bunny and then next time you see it, it's skinned and dead. It's like, well, fuck you, show. Like, I don't want to see that.
Well, you know what was funny is how everything had to be from Earth almost, but with a twist. Like the bunny had poison sacs, and it's just he was talking about how the soil was just so fertile, and it's like, well, if this is true about this planet, why isn't everybody living here? Why are you the only people living here? This makes no sense. I don't know.
Yeah, the space bunny, that was weird.
If this planet is really so sustainable and it could probably sustain probably 3 times the population of Earth, then why is Riker the only person in the galaxy living there with his family? It just makes no sense.
He pretty much got like a whole island to himself.
Wasn't it weird though that they transported from another part of the galaxy somewhere and they just ended up right next to his house?
Yeah. Oh, that was just story convenience. That was all that was.
It just seemed like he said, let's go to Nepenthe, and well, of course you end up right next to the Riker if you say that. Makes sense.
It almost makes you wonder if there was some kind of strange reshoot they had to fix. But haven't they?
The episode was reinserted into the series,
right?
Almost like this was an earlier episode or something. Yeah,
because even though the plot is poorly paced out and doesn't really move anywhere, this episode does stop everything pretty much cold, and it tries to basically reset Picard to because twice. Patrick Stewart has been told, be the Jean-Luc Picard we remember. First in the pilot, and now 7 episodes later by Deanna Troi. And he's still not anywhere resembling the type of character he was in either the television series or even relatively in the films.
Yeah, it makes you wonder if, you're right, if this wasn't an earlier episode, and then when they got to the point where Mecca and Rob they listened to that interview with, was it Michelle Paradise and Kurtzman, where they said they got to episode 7 and they had to go back because nothing made sense. So this would be episode 7.
Kurtzman. Let's see, it was Alex Kurtzman. It was her name is Hanley Culpepper, I believe is how you pronounce it.
Oh, it was Nell Culpepper, yeah.
And it was
Akiva Goldsman and I think Jonathan Frakes.
Yeah, well, that was another one. Oh, there's a new one today with Michael Chabon and a visual effects supervisor, basically.
What's funny to me is they had to have known way back when that they were going to delay the show. They just didn't want to justify our reporting, I think. Because when we went to Star Trek Las Vegas, Frakes had only filmed one scene with Picard. And I think did he say he had directed his episodes yet? I don't know if he had.
He had done 2 episodes.
He did direct 2 episodes before this, the one we saw, but I'm trying to remember if he said that he had actually directed those episodes yet. So I'm wondering if they didn't do these completely out of order.
Wasn't it supposed to be more episodes in the beginning?
Well, they said they had enough for 13 episodes, but they had to make it work for 10, I think is how they put it.
Right.
Because the deal was for 10, so they had to re-edit everything down to the 10 episodes.
And then they somehow managed to make this boring shit. They kept that. And let's keep the pizza episode. That's great stuff.
Well, if anything, you could have started the show here. That's what all of us were saying last week on Anna, that Star Wars Girl stream. We're like, you get everything you need to know in this episode. You literally could have just started it here almost.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that they tell us everything we need to know in the episode, but I mean, it does pretty much encompass the entire first half of this series in one succinct moment. And then it's like, okay, now we're going on to a newer part of the story. He's got the girl. Now what? Which we should have had an inkling of what his plan was going to be after he gets the girl, before he gets her. Like, it's just so unsorted. It screams of panicking, a panic style of writing. It's like, oh crap, we have this much time. We got to get this done. We got to get the scene out quick. We don't have time to do anything with it. Just hit the beat points and then go. Which echoes a lot of what happens with rewriting, especially when you're rewriting essentially a whole series while you're shooting it. It's all messy.
Well, they went through how many show writers or showrunners throughout the show?
Mystery box, and they're mystery boxing everything too.
Well, almost. I mean, I think they actually know what's in the box. They just don't know how to reveal it properly.
We don't know what difference any of this is going to make in the end. She's been activated. We don't know what that means. She's the key to everything. What happens? I mean, what is that key to everything? She's the destroyer. What difference does it make?
Yeah, essentially, like episode 8 kind of sets up that there's some sort of other party out beyond the galaxy that might come once we cross the AI threshold, and then that will bring the destruction of whatever. It's so vague, it's so undefined. It's basically a Mass Effect storyline from the video game. I'm glad that they're not trying to make the Romulans responsible for the existence of the Borg, which is what we kind of theorized a few weeks back. That's kind of a relief. But it just doesn't feel, it feels like we're getting all this information way too late for us to be able to digest it and actually have fun with the entertainment value of what it could mean for the remaining 2 episodes we have left. It just doesn't feel like it's going to be satisfying in any way at this point.
Right. It's like they're going for like a Voyager ending where everything just gets wrapped up in 1 or 2 episodes.
In 2 hours, yeah.
It's weird. Nothing's happened of consequence, and now is this going to end, or is it just going to be a cliffhanger? I don't know.
Yeah, I think they're going to do it a cliffhanger, and if they try to get that second season and they get Whoopi Goldberg in, Whoopi Goldberg is going to know about this destroyer species because she's a Lorian and they've lived forever and they survived the Borg, and so they survive everything. And yeah, and she's going to be the exposition and guidance for making up whatever shortcomings the first season has, and there's a lot of them. But that's only speculatively if they do, in fact, get a second season.
Well, we do know they are hiring writers, at least.
Yeah, I believe Kevin Smith's friend from his podcast.
Yeah, Mark Bernadette or whatever his name is, yeah. Which I have not really seen much of his writing, so I can't.
Yeah, neither have I. I'm only familiar with him from the podcast. I'm not familiar with.
Yeah, and I guess he wrote for some CW shows, but I'm not sure which ones exactly. So
that's not good on his resume.
Oh no, not CW writer.
Well, I'm talking about the comic book shows, but still.
That's still not even good for his resume.
And I think he used to be a comic book writer, if I'm not mistaken.
That's also kind of iffy. Not to bash comic book writers, but like the last 25 years of comic book writers have not been.
But again, like you, but yeah, like you, Script Doctor, my main knowledge of him comes from the Fat Man on Batman podcast, which, I mean, I'll be honest, I fell out of Kevin Smith's podcast a while ago, but
Yeah, myself as well. I think it's been like 3 years since I've last really listened to any of his stuff.
and I mean, I'm a fan still. I mean, I don't have any ill will towards him. I don't even pick on him as much as some people do. So, I mean, but it just, I don't know. I've been so busy. That's most of it. So, plus, I don't know if I really want that influencing what I do over here. So,
Yeah, I
part of
can
it.
do that. Yeah.
So, but yeah, anyway, so go ahead, Undoomed.
Well, so I just wanted to ask, how do you guys feel about this serialized storytelling when it spans multiple seasons? Because I don't mind it if it's just one season, but if it's going to turn out to be some lost shit where you never get to the end, it's going to get even more boring.
It only works if it's Babylon 5 and it's planned out and you have a competent storyteller that has the entire thing. And even Babylon 5, you know, because they thought they were going to get canceled, they rushed the ending. So we had the ending of season 4 instead of 5. It still worked pretty well, but you kind of have to have that, and you have to have it storyboarded. You have to have it a lot more organized and prepared than this mess that they have with, you know, showrunner of the week crap and all of this last minute, we gotta fix everything. It's like, well, no, you should have just done it right in the first place. Then you went and had to go in and fix everything.
Right, and we know, we know these guys haven't planned out shit.
No.
They proved that to us with Discovery. Remember, you guys, when Jason Isaac said they had no fucking clue what they were going to do for the ending.
Yeah.
They're serializing it backwards. They want a place where they end up, and they're doing it reductively. It seems like, oh, she's the destroyer, and they're tracing it backwards. But I mean, but they're doing it in such a haphazard way that it leaves more questions than answers.
Yeah, it's a complete lack of leadership and focus of and direction. I mean, so far in these 7 to 8 episodes, we've had teases of other story ideas that are far superior to what we're actually getting, and we're never going to see those stories for 2 reasons. One, the writer that came up with that idea is not going to be show running the series, and 2, even if they were able to get the idea, I don't think they'll have enough time to fully develop it to its full potential to be entertaining for us as an audience. So they just wanted to get it out there to say they got it out there.
Yeah, how many times have we brought this up now in almost every single review as we get farther and farther along? I personally get more upset because I'm like, look at all the money you spent, the time you've wasted, the character, and you had Patrick Stewart and all these other people involved. It's not like Patrick Stewart's going to be around that much longer. Okay, so you've wasted the opportunity to bring back one of the most beloved characters in the Star Trek universe, and you've done absolutely fucking nothing with him but destroy him, basically.
Yeah.
I wonder how much Patrick Stewart is to blame for this, because I'm guessing he's got a lot of power.
Well, and we've brought that up before. I don't want to blame him per se, but I got to remind people he's not necessarily a fan. A lot of these actors don't watch the stuff. It's not like they sit at home and watch thousands of hours of Star Trek to keep up to date on this shit. They do the scenes, and the chances of them even watching the show when it comes on are probably nil to none. So most of the time, most of these actors probably don't even know the entire stories of every episode. They just know what their parts were, and you're lucky if they remember that. You know, so I mean, you just got to kind of keep in mind that, you know, they're not necessarily fans of this stuff. They're just doing their job. And we got to remember that also Patrick Stewart was the one who was, you know, responsible for the pew-pews and the dune buggies and Nemesis. That was his choice. That's what he wanted. He's wanted to make Picard an action hero since the movies have started, or since before that, actually. I mean,
right.
You know, so I mean, it's same thing with, I mean, Shatner. Sure, he loves doing this stuff, but if you gave him his druthers, it would be, you know, William Shatner in Die Hard as Picard or Kirk. You know, I mean, these actors want to be the star, they want to be the hero, they want to be, you know, the big buff, you know, Arnold Schwarzenegger type. That's what they want, you know, but that's not what Star Trek is. So it's kind of it's a clash, and you know, you can't expect Patrick Stewart to be a real steward of Star Trek or Picard for that matter. Not
he flat out would
his
not come back unless
responsibility.
it was different. He flat out said, I will not come back and play Captain Picard again. Like,
Most most of these people don't care that much about their character to where we do. We care so much more about these characters, and even the actors will say, "Oh, well, any of you fans in the audience know much more about the character than I do." And a lot of people I've interviewed, they even say the same thing. It's like, you probably know more about the movie than I do, and I made it. It's like.
Sure, sure. I was more thinking about the fact that he was out in media, saying how this new Picard series is going to be about Brexit and Trump.
Oh, well, it clearly is. It's
and I assume that he has a lot of power in terms of steering the show.
Mm-hmm. He wanted it to do that. There's articles and interviews. It was like a whole Vanity Fair piece. I want to say the one where he's wearing the red suit. Yeah, he was like, no, this is about Trump and Brexit.
And they encouraged it.
Passion too. Yeah. It doesn't even address it in a way that you could even have a good debate about it. It's just the most broadest ways of saying, oh yes, so federations are kind of isolationist now. We're not going to experiment more synth stuff, which harkens back to, I guess, the old stem cell argument years and years ago. And then it's also the treatment of refugees, which and bans on travel. Like it's very point stuff that doesn't even have debate. It's
very surface level bullshit. Yeah.
It's already debated in past stories.
On the nose.
Like Discovery, they didn't really put much thought into it. They just throw it in there because it's the popular thing at the time. It doesn't have nearly the thought as like Orville or even the old classic Treks put into a lot of their social commentary. Because go ahead.
No, I was going to say that it seems like they forget that these things have a long life. This thing that is going to blow over in a couple of years, and Star Trek is supposed to be more universal and last longer than just addressing the thing that is in there in the media right now. It's like, what are they going to do next? Make a coronavirus episode? You know what I mean?
Well, I'm surprised they have. It already kind of has potential. Yeah. They're just not that clever. I don't think they understand the nuance and the subtlety it takes to tell some of these stories in a way that isn't so on the nose or I feel like it's preaching. And that's the problem most people have is, we deal with so much. Look at what we're dealing with right now, in our real lives. The last thing we want to do is deal with nonsense like that in our entertainment. And the biggest problem we keep having with Picard, especially throughout the show, is we have to keep stopping and asking ourselves, well, why is that? Well, why did that person do that? Well, why didn't that person do that instead? And when you're doing that, or, you're trying to make sense of all the nonsense that's thrown at you, JJ and Kurtzman and those kind of guys think you'll just ignore it and move on. But I don't think they realize the fan base they're playing to.
Yeah, the fan base is also more intelligent and experienced than.
That's what I'm saying. Is I really think that they think they can get one past the audience and be like, they're not going to pay attention to the technobabble. They just want to get to the story. No, Trek fans do pay much attention to not just the technobabble, but the ins and outs of the stories and all that kind of stuff.
And it's not just random technobabble words. I mean, they developed an entire system and an entire structure for, okay, well, the warp is this and it does this, and this is how fast warp this is, and this is this is how our computer technology works, and it's all based in either real theoretical stuff or real actual computing technology. And they don't get basic computers correctly. They don't get the fact that a computer and an android, and those are different sort of things than people. What's more interesting is how did you combine human DNA with android and robotic stuff? They don't care. They don't understand. They just know, oh yeah, we'll just, like in Discovery, we'll just plunk the android's brain or the lady's brain and put her in a robot body and then pretend like it's sad when she dies. Who cares, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And on top of that,
the backstory.
If you want to say take the situation we're currently in today at this moment and do it in sci-fi, you do it into the effect of what happens when one society relies on another society for all their resources, and then something bad happens. So, for instance, you can go back to the Next Generation with the first season episode Symbiosis, where one culture makes all the things, the food, the tools, and then trades it for Felicium, a drug that's supposed to cure their plague, but it's actually become an addiction now. And as soon as they're out of ships and they can't build anymore because they're hindered by this addiction, you're going to see a fallout with regards to those two societies, and that's what Star Trek would do. You would take the specifics of what we have, and you'd go in a more inductive way to the more deductive way to the more broad spectrum of things, and then go inductive to make it specific to a fictional setting. But the writers of Star Trek Picard and Discovery especially don't appear to have that understanding of how science fiction is used as a tool for storytelling.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's the thing is it doesn't even really, we keep saying from time to time, well, these people aren't even fans. Well, that doesn't even necessarily matter because some of the best Trek in the world has been made by non-Trek fans. I'm talking, of course, especially, Wrath of Khan and what like Nicholas Myers has brought to the table. But none of these people are Nicholas Meyer. Kurtzman is not even a freaking,
He's not a
scrotum hair on Nicholas Meyer. He can't. You couldn't even put those two in the same room. I don't even understand how they could ever work together. To be honest with you,
I don't think they actually worked together.
Because I don't know Nicholas Meyer that well, but he's not somebody who puts up with nonsense for very long.
No,
he's a very straightforward fucking person, and he does not put up with bullshit. And I don't understand how those two brains could get in the same room, and how Nicholas Meyer just couldn't go, "You are a complete fucking moron."
How did you get here? That's how he
exactly, yeah.
Because I've met him once, and I had a pleasant conversation with him, but he did get a little like Kurt, and not so much Kurt, but annoyed because I talked to him about the Kobayashi Maru, and I told him my theory to win it, and he's like, "Yeah, that could work." And
he's very
gritted his teeth and walked away.
I don't know how to put it because he's a gracious gentleman. Don't get me wrong,
absolutely.
But he's very intelligent, and if there's at any moment where he feels like you've outsmarted him, for sure, because I got that moment in the interview when I asked him about the colorful metaphors. You can tell I kind of stumped him a little bit.
Yeah, he felt like he wasn't as prepared as he wanted to be, and that's actually a benefit to his ego, because then that he's going to do the research and like figure out everything he can when he's applying to his own work, and that's kind of what you want as a skill in a writer and a director.
Well, unfortunately, at that point, he was already too far from the show. But hey, miss, I know we're porn nerds. Is that how it's pronounced as Mayer? Because if that's the case, he didn't correct me. I was surprised. Because he insisted that I read his book before I talked to him too.
Well, he seems like the kind of guy who doesn't suffer fools lightly.
Oh no, he's very, very quick and very on point, and you don't want to stumble around him or show one bit of weakness. He'll eat you alive when it comes to a battle of wits. That's for sure.
Oh, but you'll learn so much from it, though.
Because he's very well. He's the most intimidating person I've ever talked to. Like, I thought it was going to be Bob Shea. No, Bob Shea's like your uncle. He was so fucking cool. But no, like Nick Meyer, he was just, whoa. It's just like very intimidating in a lot of ways. But a very great guy. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm not trying to paint him in any way like a bad guy at all. So. I know we went off point there, but that's the thing, is that's the way Picard should have a presence in this show, to kind of tie it back around, and he doesn't, because everybody treats him like a little bitch.
Yep.
Yeah, that's kind of weird. And it was weird in the last episode when he's like, he doesn't even know how to run the fucking ship.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's been a captain and a Starfleet officer for at least 50, 60 years.
Mm-hmm.
And he should be able to adapt to the new technology as it's presented, regardless of him being out of Starfleet for 14 of those years. Yeah,
it's like picking up a 14-year-old car and you can't drive it. What?
Yeah.
The only time I've ever seen an elderly person lost when they're driving a car is when it's one of those push to start ones and they don't have the key. And it usually just takes them a minute, and then after that, they're good to go.
Right.
This is I don't know. I don't know how this is related, but did you guys see that stupid shit that was trending yesterday that kids are calling the fucking virus now?
No.
Boomer remover.
Oh.
Maybe we should have something that makes millennials smarter.
I know. It's just like, I mean, I'm not even going to justify it at this moment in time because it's more of a Mead kind of rant.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just, I feel bad for Patrick Stewart. I feel bad for the character of Picard. I don't understand how he would want this to. I get it as an actor. He's chewing up the scenery. He's getting to do great, scenes with people that he likes and loves and people that he's never got to act with before. And obviously people who are some great actors. Because I'll be honest with you, the acting in this, even though, Discovery had some great actors.
The acting is good, yeah.
The acting is top notch in this fucking show. I got to give them that. They're doing some great work with what they've got.
Well, that Santiago guy, the guy who plays Rios.
Well, yeah, him and Raffi alone.
He's good.
Well,
although I wasn't in love with Patrick Stewart doing that silly voice, though. I gotta admit that.
Oh God, nobody likes that. You're not alone in that. No, Patrick Stewart actually is probably the one who's probably doing the least. It feels like he's kind of just coasting in this a lot of the time. I mean, I know he's chewing the scenery here and there with a few actors when they get into their bits, but that's the problem is all these scenes feel forced. There's a lot of forced drama. We've talked about that. Oh, and let's get into episode 7 because this is one where we get another one of our beloved characters killed in episode 7 with Hugh.
Yeah.
Right.
Do you value any life on this show at all? It's like, I don't even care at this point. You already killed off Icheb in the most ridiculous way possible. Now you're killing off Hugh of Borg, who, I wasn't the hugest fan of Hugh of Borg anyway, but I mean, what's the point in killing him off? What's the point in just treating these people like they're disposable? Why, if they don't care enough to make them meaningful?
Never got one before.
And it was brought up in the chat earlier as it was scrolling around. I can't get to it now, but somebody asked about that. Why this incessant need to kill classic characters? Is it something with the writers? And it's lazy writing. It's a way of creating drama when you have no other way of doing it because your writing is shit. The easiest thing in the world to do is kill a character. I hate to say this, but why do you think George Lucas wanted to kill Han Solo in Return of the Jedi? Because he knew it was the weakest of the bunch at the time, because it was basically the same story as episode 4. He needed something to make it, pop.
Yeah,
and to him, the only thing that could make it pop was kill Han Solo. Yeah.
Yeah.
But they're like, no, we're not going to do that. We're not going to do that.
Well, Lucas is always so really protective of his character.
Yeah, because they were, Kurtzman and all them were like, yeah, kill him. Fucking Han Solo, get rid of him. Or not Kurtzman, not JJ.
Kasdan or Arndt?
Kasdan, that was the name I was trying to think of. Kasdan, thank you. Kasdan wanted to kill him. He's like, let him die. He ain't got no mama. He ain't got no papa.
Like, I thought I killed him in episode 5.
Somebody needs to die. That's how he said it. That creepy voice. Somebody.
Yeah, and that's been the trope. Every episode, someone's been killed, either a principal character or an ancillary character, or just goons, especially like lots of goons.
I mean, if you set a character up like Han Solo, and yeah, he did fight against it. You're right, Rand. I'm remembering it wrong now. They wanted to kill him. Harrison Ford wanted to kill him. Lucas was the one who fought against it. You're right.
Yeah, because Lucas wanted the security.
But that was because Kasdan and them knew the story was weak, and they needed something to. Since
they needed consequences and stakes to our main characters, because Obi-Wan was the one that kind of died.
Yeah, I got to eat something here, Mike.
So Lucas was just looking out for the merchandising. That's what he's thinking.
Yeah, that's what he said. He didn't think people would buy a toy of a dead guy.
Yeah.
Now I remember. Yeah, my brain's starting to function somewhat. So yeah, this show just makes your brain go, because that's what pissed me off about the whole Hugh thing, is because she's like, she kills all his buddies, right? And then she's like, I would kill you, but you're protected. It's like, does that really fucking matter? Like, this guy isn't gonna go tell everybody that you're a psycho bitch and you just killed everybody.
No one's gonna have questions as to where they are now after they don't report in or anything.
Not only that, she could pin it on anybody from Picard to Soji at that point, and she doesn't, and then she ends up killing him anyway, so it doesn't fucking matter. That whole scene is null and void and stupid.
Well, yeah, she's part of a secret society, a bunch of spies. This should be like second nature to them.
Right, that's what I'm saying. The first thing should be, it's like, that's where Hugh comes in and says, "You can't kill me. I'm protected." And she's like, "You stupid fool! I'll just tell him Picard did it." Boom.
Yeah.
You know.
And that stupid fight between her and Eleanor, where she puts away her disruptor rifle, and he puts away her sword, and they're like just fisticuff it out.
Yeah, like all of a sudden now between those two scenes, she's suddenly got some kind of like honor of some type.
Yeah, I mean, and to get a little bit ahead of ourselves with episode 8, when you see what the Jat Vash is and what they're trying to do, you almost understand it to be a compassionate idea, but they're going about it in very sinister and deceptive means. And that, I mean, it almost tries to put them in the form of an antagonist as opposed to a villain, but it doesn't work out so well because all their actions are incredibly self-serving and villainous.
Right, yeah, Kevin Clark, this is kind of what I was trying to get to, but my brain is like, I need some like fruit or something here. Kevin Clark says, there's a good reason and contrived one to kill off a character. If it serves the plot and the tone of the story, then it's fine, but I don't believe they did it for that reason. Yeah, that's kind of what I was getting to. Thank you for saying it better than me. It's like you can have a great character and, their death can serve the story very well, or you can have a character where their death just is meaningless, or you just introduce a character to kill them. I hate that. That is my biggest pet peeve in the world. If you just introduce a brand new character just to all of a sudden kill them off for that specific reason. They did that all the time on Classic Trek. That's one thing I will say that pissed me off about that show. Because that was kind of a cheap move they'd do once in a while. They'd introduce some random new fucking person on the show that you just get to know because they're just going to kill them.
Yeah.
Ensign Skippy.
They have to give them some sad, sobby backstory that you get to know them for 20, 30 minutes before they do it, So everybody on the ship is sad that they were gone. It's like, we didn't know him yesterday, but we knew him today, and we're sad because he's dead now.
Yeah, there's also a lot of managers in Hollywood that's what they usually tell their writers is like, yeah, kill your main character off by the end. And it's like, why? It's like, don't you want a franchise potential? Don't you want to do anything? It's like, no, we just want to make sure they have that extra drama. And sometimes self-sacrificing characters are more enjoyable to the audience than not. And I'm like, I don't think you're paying attention to audiences.
No. When you kill a character, especially one that's been around for a long time, you need to handle that with very kid gloves.
Yeah. And that's the other thing that I always get disappointed to, especially when you're dealing with heroic characters. So many people postulate the idea that a heroic character has to die in a blaze of glory, self-sacrificial, that saves the world or universe one last time, where I'm of the mind, it's like, well, why not just have them, die with a happy life? Like, they've succeeded. They've gone through all their triumphs. Then it's not as dramatic, but it's more like bittersweet sorrow as opposed to, either super badass or super meaningless.
Well, and that's what I was saying about this show to begin with, is if they would have just had it be like, like the setup, Picard finds out that his disease is, going to kill him within months. And he's like, fuck it, I've been sitting here wasting my life in this, vineyard. I'm going to get my buddies together and I'm going to go die in space. I don't want to die here. And he just finds himself in a few adventures. And like we said, Script Doctor, if the show does well, guess what? You find a cure or something that keeps him to live a little longer, to extend the show out. That's all you need to do. And at least it's not this drawn out bullshit.
That would have been awesome.
And everybody says that when I bring that up. It's like, how cool would that have been to see him go to Riker and Worf and all those guys and go, look, I'm going to be dead soon, but I don't want to die, old and alone in the vineyard. Come on, let's go have some fun. And they steal a ship or something.
It's a road trip in space.
Yeah, get the band back together.
Exactly.
The TNG and see if we screwed up their worlds or if they did any better. What's that planet that Adra was trying to conquer, a decade ago? Let's go see how they're doing.
Oh, yeah. Those from Devils too,
even if you would have just had Q show up in the beginning and be going, I know your time is limited, Picard, but something like just to set it off on some different. We don't need it.
Yeah, they missed a huge opportunity with Picard because the fact that they brought in the Romulans and they don't even bring in Sela, like Tasha Yar's kid.
Well, I think speaking of Romulans, we finally got the answer to that one. The one. What's her name?
Commodore Oro.
Yeah, we now know that she's a mixed breed.
Yeah, she's Vulcan Romulan, which is essentially just the same thing.
the same damn thing.
2,000 years
still-
of separation is not enough for there to be like a legitimate change in bloodline.
And they still insist on doubling down on the sunglasses thing too from her. And even though they show them on a planet with two suns,
You
like
know what
they
that
all-
is? You know why that is? It's going to be. And it's going to be because she's from the other fucking...
Mirror universe.
Yeah.
Oh fuck me!
Oh,
No, not the
hope
mirror
not.
universe bullshit again. Oh,
That would suck.
That's the only thing that makes sense at this point.
but they don't make sense in these shows anyway. Like the most simplest explanation that you could give them as an easy out, they won't use. They want these massive convoluted stories of and we have this gosh, whatever the crap they're called. Even though you could just sum it up with something really, really simple. You could have the most simplest of storylines. Keep it simple, stupid. And they don't do that. They've got to have these elaborate, and then 7 of 9, and the Borg, and Hugh's there, and then we got to go get Elrond, and then we got to have this chick who kills Bruce Maddox. And then this, and then this. It's like, okay, stop adding ingredients into the show and, get the basics right first. So you need celery, carrots, and onions, and then you can add some chicken stock to that. You don't just throw everything experimental into the pot. And
I want to throw out something here. You guys are probably going to moan when I say this, but unless they kill O at the end of this, how much you want to bet she's set up to be the villain for the fucking Section 31 show?
Oh,
Probably.
Since she's from the mirror universe and so is the other one, and they got to figure out how they're going to get her back to the normal time,
and
too.
they used to be lovers. She used to be lovers with Georgia.
Probably.
Of course.
You wouldn't put it past them, and that's kind of the sad part about it.
That's what I've been kind of thinking these last couple episodes. Like, they're setting this up for her to be the villain in the Section 31 show. And
But
the
is-
whole section...
Do you think that thing is happening though?
It's the closest to happening anything other than the animated shows, and that's just because, from what we know, they have what's her name under contract,
Yo.
Michelle Yeoh, and her whole thing was she was griping because she was until they just shut down production. I think today it was that I think Mecca told me on Shang-Chi she's supposed to be in that. So the whole
they
thing
shut down
was.
production. The director has self-isolated himself. He's not been confirmed tested positive or anything. He's just said, I'm going into isolation because I don't want to get sick.
So again, rumor was that her manager and people or whatever were getting pissed because they were dicking her around on the schedule with Section 31. So they were saying, like, if it doesn't get into production by a certain time or at a certain point, she's going to drop out of it. And she was pissed anyway because I guess the character wasn't even supposed to be her mirror universe, Georgiou. It was supposed to be the original version.
Mhm.
So yeah, I don't know how much of that's true, but that's just kind of what we've heard about the whole situation. And it's the one that Alex is pushing the hardest for some reason.
Well, now we're seeing all these rumors of the Pike show come back, even though they're just quoting year-old articles at this point, just because they had a massive stock crash again, in my opinion. But
Well, that's just look at the timing of it. How long has it been since we last heard of Kurtzman and Co. talking about their upcoming series? It's been a couple of weeks, about 6 weeks, I think.
it's like clockwork. Anytime there's a clunker of an episode, we get all these, and there's a Section 31 show, and there's a Pike show.
Just like we've been getting a Star Trek movie for the last 5 years too, yeah. But no, that's the thing is I think they're just trying to push the Section 131 thing, like you said, to give you incentive to watch this in the upcoming Discovery. And they're going to make you think that it's all going to tie together, which it probably will. So
I don't see how they're going to tie this with Picard. I mean, Discovery with Picard. But
I can tell you a few ways right now.
I'm sure it'll be really stupid, but go ahead.
Well, do you remember Control in
Yeah.
in Discovery? That's what this whole AI is. It's Control. It's the same fucking thing.
Okay.
So it's all going to lead to the same thing. Everything that's going on right now is going to lead to the downfall of the Federation, which is what Mikey Spock's going to have to fix in the future.
Yeah.
And then basically the only thing they have to figure out in Discovery now in season 3 is how they're going to get Georgiou back to this time period so she can be in Section 31 if that show ever happens.
It's ridiculous. So, guys, I gotta go. But
Thanks for joining us, Script Doctor. Appreciate it, man.
All right, so take care. I'll watch the follow up later, and I'll catch you guys later on.
Take care.
So yeah,
it's speechless. I mean, this.
No, they're gonna tie it in, like they're saying in chat. They're gonna tie it into the Red Angel because Mikey Spock could jump throughout space and time in that Red Angel suit. So she probably went back in time and accidentally created everything. She probably put that little glowy table beacon thing that made all the Romulan chicks claw their own eyes out.
Well, it will be that they thought that they destroyed Control, and basically the Romulans brought it back, and Control started the Borg and all that shit. Yeah, like we said back in Discovery Season 2.
Yeah, I just think that except for Star Trek 4, time travel is just a big nightmare.
Yeah, it is. I mean, that's one thing I think they're going to rely. We were surprised they didn't use time travel to fix the problems. No, instead they used that stupid freaking excuse that, we just don't talk about Discovery and Mikey Spock.
Except there's way too many people that saw what went down.
Exactly. It's kind of stupid. I mean, you really expect us to buy that?
I have registered your opinion, Spock, but decided I don't give a damn about it.
Everything Kurtzman does has an overly simplistic explanation behind it. I mean, every single plot point.
Well, it's an overly complicated setup to a nothing simple explanation, though. It's like, and then we have this, and then we have this. They throw everything, including the kitchen sink, into these shows, and then it's all, and it was just an argument. It was just a fight. Okay, you're building all this stuff up for something so simple.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. It's an overcomplicated question to an easy answer, usually. That's pretty much what you're saying. And that's Discovery in a nutshell. That's Picard in a nutshell. The problem is there's no leadership on the show. Oh, there's Critical Drinker. How you doing? Why is...
So what do you guys think of Rios? Because I like the character and the acting, but I think it's fucking confusing to have like a gazillion holograms of him.
I like the actor. Was his name Santiago something or other?
Yeah, I don't know either. I like him too.
Yeah, but he's utterly wasted on this,
and not in a good way, like drunk.
Yeah,
he's just wasted as a character.
It seems like it seems like they just figured, this guy's really good with imitation, so let's give him a gazillion holograms.
Yeah,
could be.
I kind of liked the different holograms because you almost had like a Three Stooges moment in one of the thing.
And this last episode kind of like put a big hole in whoever it was that last leak, not the leak before that was correct, but the last leak that said that Rios was a hologram himself. I don't think that's the case. I really don't know.
I don't know if it matters.
It might be. I mean, I almost thought that we were getting there when Raffi was like, she's like figuring out that all his personality is split up between them all. But just the fact that, he's in his quarters, locked himself in there, and he's emotional. I don't know if an AI unit could get that emotional over something. I don't know how that would work. Maybe. Maybe. But the only problem was with that still was that he went down to the planet in the one episode. So that's the only thing that punches a hole in that too. So I don't know. I mean, I like the character to a point. I don't get what they're trying to do with him with all the different personalities outside of what they finally put together in this last episode, and that was just to tell that he knew that Soji had another brother and sister, and he's seen them. And that's the other thing, is the convenience of all these characters that that was one bit. I'm like, okay, so what are the odds of that being the same fucking pilot that you happen to pick, and the odds of 1 in a billion, chajillion, cajillion, quadrillion Google chance that they were the ship that picked them up before?
It's the same chance of you falling into a quicksand hole and finding the knife or whatever it was.
Or actually not following in the quicksand hole and winding up in a wall. That was my first thought in that movie, in the Rise of Skywalker. How did one of them not get stuck on a wall?
Greasy, really.
It was so convenient. And that's the other problem is, Mecca, I think you're kind of getting to, is Kurtzman and JJ and Orsi and all these guys come from the same school of the convenience of the plot. The convenience of, shit happening just because it has to happen to the characters, and that's it. Critical Drinker, how you doing, sir? We didn't expect you, but I'm glad to have you here.
Hey, man, I didn't really expect me either, but...
I know, you said you were pretty tired.
My brain's wired, and fuck it, I'm in the process of getting drunk right now because I've been kind of laying off the booze all week while I got my book finished, so tonight I can just chill out.
Congratulations on
Nice.
that.
No, thank you very much. It's been an epic experience, but I'm just glad it's fucking done now.
I can feel your pain through your voice there.
It's just, this is, it's been 6 months I've been working on this book and it's done. And it's like the last one in the series. So that's basically 10 years of planning and work that I've finally brought to fruition.
Wow.
So it's satisfying, but fuck me, it's hard to tie up all those plot threads.
Well, speaking of tying up plot threads, it sounds like Picard was making your brain hurt quite a bit when I talked to you earlier.
Yeah. So I got done watching episode 8 just like 10-15 minutes ago. So I thought, well, it's fresh in my brain. I can probably jump in and give my thoughts.
Absolutely. What's your thoughts on it?
Picard doesn't need to be in this show. It's basically a show built around Soji and Rios and a few of the others. They're the main characters. He's just there to get his name in it, pretty much. And
That's true.
It feels like the original premise for this movie was built around Soji as being the main character, and I think that probably would have been fair enough, but they obviously realized, well, that's a character no one gives a crap about because it's a total nobody, so who can we bring in we'd give it a bit of star power? Well, Picard, that'll do. Yeah, whatever. And that's really what it feels like. It wasn't the worst episode I've seen. It did it at least brought in a few interesting elements, but yeah, it's a show that doesn't need to have Picard in it because most of the time he's just in the background doing nothing.
Yeah, that's a pretty good observation.
It's nice to see 7 of 9 back again. Now she's like going Borg Queen on us.
Yeah, that was weird.
Yeah.
Was anyone else bothered by the fact that she had black eyes?
Yeah, just all of it, the whole scene. It's like, okay, so she plugs herself into the Borg cube to get rid of Romulan incest sister chick, but she doesn't realize that she could just close the door after Romulan incest chick blows them all out into space. Like, okay, you're hooked up to the thing, close the door, something, and it's
Yeah.
It's all weird as well. Like, I'm trying to get my head around the practicalities of this. Like, can any drone just go into that room and interface into the collective and basically take over? Or is there something special about her that allows her to do it?
No, in the last episode, Hugh did tell him he would need at least a Borg. That's all he said, I think, was just at least a Borg to run it. That was the whole thing, was they had to get there with Hugh. So he had no way out or whatever without him.
Right.
Yeah.
But he's on a ship full of Borgs, so I don't know what the hell. No, and it was kind of... Go ahead.
No, it kind of destroys the whole concept of the collective if just, anyone can go in and take control as one person.
Well, right. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I mean, this is something that's been going on for a long time within Star Trek when it comes to the Borg. They were at their most interesting when you knew the least about them. But as they've gradually, brought in all these different concepts about Borg Queens and, the different collectives and how they can be fragmented into different groups when they're removed from it temporarily, it totally destroys the mystique and the danger and the menace of the Borg, because then they just start to become really kind of human.
Right.
They're not this big faceless entity that you can't destroy and that's just out to assimilate you. Like, suddenly they're almost kind of pathetic looking, and that's almost where we're at with it now. I don't want all this information about the Borg. I don't want to know how their hierarchy is structured. I don't want to know how their ships function. It's stuff that we should never know. They're meant to be a mystery. They're meant to be intimidating, and they're not anymore.
Right. That was my big gripe with introducing the Borg Queen in the first place.
Oh yeah, a lot of people had that problem, and I see that in retrospect now. The more I get to know about the Borg, because I originally came in through like the movies and stuff, just seeing random episodes, but I saw all the movies in theaters. But and I liked First Contact when I saw it, but then I can see in retrospect how they made what was a very interesting and, like you said, Critical Drinker, scarier villain in a way, when they just were kind of like this mindless hive that all they do is assimilate. They don't have any like grudges. They don't have any, reason for it. It's just what they do. And once you add a queen to the mix with a motive, and you also give that queen a Stargate, it opens up a whole bunch of questions as to, okay, then if her whole goal is to assimilate everything, then why isn't everything just assimilated if she has a Stargate? Because she could have done it in 10 minutes.
The original episode, when they're first introduced, even now, I stand that out as being genuinely quite disturbing to watch. Because, like we were saying, you really don't get much of an insight into what their motivations are, and anything about, what their thought process is or anything like that. They're just this unknown force that keeps coming after you, and you can't stop them. And the episode does a great job of portraying them like that. But yeah, once you bring in someone who's like their leader and you give them a face almost, then it ceases to become scary because they're not unique anymore.
Isn't that even like a direct quote from Q? Like he says something like that they can't be understood and they can't be stopped, or I don't remember. It was a long time ago.
Yeah, something like it's near the end when they're being pursued by the Borg. They're trying to make a run for it, and Q is saying to Picard, like, you're basically outmoded here. If you damage them, then the essence of what they are will remain. They'll pursue you. They'll chase you until you've exhausted your fuel. They'll wear down your defenses, and eventually you'll become weakened, and then you'll be theirs. And you're going to be assimilated by them. And it's a brilliant little speech, and it just really drives home that relentless aspect of them. You can, however many casualties you inflict on them, however much you damage them, you can never destroy them completely, and eventually they'll just adapt and regenerate and come after you again.
Right. That was the brilliance of the Borg, is that they're kind of like zombies. When you kill them, there's just one death, but when they kill you, they also take that body and add it to their own. So it's like a zombie scenario. They grow exponentially.
Yeah, and then they kind of confuse the matter with 7 of 9 in this episode, because she's like, well, I could be the queen, but then I don't know if I'll stop wanting to be the queen. And she also insinuates that once you become a member of the Borg, you almost want to stay a member of the collective.
Yeah,
yeah, I'm not sure how that. I mean, I can. It's either one or the other. Because either you're going to go mad with power, which is kind of what you're insinuating with being, the queen of the collective, or if you're part of the collective, then it just must be because your body just gets like addicted to the fact that it has to make no choices whatsoever on its own.
Well, the collective seems to kind of speak through her when she's connected to it. So it's like, well, all right, is that the way she explained it? It was almost like, well, you're going to be a head of a mini collective within this cube, but then when it was actually happening, it's like, oh wow, it's like the collective itself has its own separate mind that's now talking through you, and it refers to 7 of 9 as a separate person.
Yeah, that's where I was kind of confused too. That's kind of what I'm getting at. Like, you can't have both. The two don't equate. You know what I mean? Like, you can't have. Yeah, it doesn't. I don't know.
Well, Kurtzman doesn't care.
No, and that's the problem with adding a queen. In the hive mentality of the situation is, once you add any kind of leader or one mind that runs everything, it defeats that purpose of what the Borg kind of really was to begin with. And I totally understand where you guys are coming from. I don't know what Mecca and Rob think about that, because I know you guys are more into Voyager and Deep Space Nine than I am, but
it's just a bunch of bullshit. Like, it's like, okay, we get that she wanted to be plugged in back to the collective initially because it's kind of your security, it's
right. That's what I was figuring. Yeah, you get kind of addicted to it in some way. Yeah,
it's so much easier. You don't have to decide for yourself. You're told what to do. You have a purpose. You're taken care of. It's so much easier to turn your brain off and be part of the collective. And just look at what's going on.
Which is probably a metaphor. I was just going to say, it was probably a metaphor at the time for groupthink, but
history repeats itself. So that's why she would want to plug herself back in, but she wouldn't just do it in a heartbeat like that for no reason than to save a cube of Borg that she's never met. She would find another way. She wouldn't just do that as her last resort. She would say, you know, we're gonna get off the ship and we're gonna go figure out a way to stop. She wouldn't just do that so willing. Same thing she wouldn't just do is shooting each up willy-nilly. There's so many things. And yes, okay, they're gonna say, yeah, she would change after 20 years. We haven't seen her in 20 years. Fine. She's still not gonna change that much. If she was gonna change that much, it's a product of the world that changed that much in 20 years that they had to break the entire world of Star Trek, where it's no longer this hopeful, optimistic worldview and just break everything, where now Starfleet's bad and nobody is sticking around. Everybody's retired. Nobody wants to be in Starfleet anymore. They're the enemy. They're, you know, they didn't rescue all these Romulans. All these Romulans are sitting on their lazy asses waiting for white men to save them. And every woman talks down to Picard and shoves him out of their way or calls them a name or whatever. This isn't the future that any of us, you know, would be like. Any character in Star Trek would not be a product of anything in this, because like I said, they had to change the entire world.
No, Rob, you're really into like politics. Now, I don't want to get into a political discussion here, but I'm going to present a question to you, and of course everybody else.
I'll try to answer it in the most
But it's a general kind of question. Like I said, everybody else can chime in on it too. When it comes to this Borg, though, okay, they got this Borg cube, right? They turned it off, and they're trying to reform all the Borg back to whatever they were before, right? Now, I'm assuming there's probably more than just humans on this ship. Romulans seem to have control over it for some reason.
There's...
I would think, and what I'm getting at here is, in a diplomatic situation like this, where you probably have several races of people that were assimilated by this Borg in this cube, wouldn't every single bit of the Federation and the Romulans, the Vulcans, everybody who's possibly got somebody assimilated on this cube be involved in this situation?
I would imagine there's Romulans, there's Vulcans, there's Tellarites, there's Andorians, there's Orions. There's Ferengi. There's every single.
That's what I'm saying. Wouldn't it make it like an international incident kind of thing, you know, in space? But I mean, yeah.
Is it not because the Borg cube is within Romulan space, so it kind of falls under their jurisdiction?
Is that what it is? Because that was where I was confused in the beginning.
Yeah, too, I mean, that's the way if the Borg cube is within Romulan space, then they most likely would have a legal claim to it.
Because they're acting like nobody else knows about it for the first part of it, and then we get so far and everybody knows about it.
Yeah, it's a very poorly kept secret.
And I'm trying. Yeah, it's whole like the Section 31 thing, almost even more convoluted though. Because
international salvage laws are if something's in just
that's where
in international waters, whomever in the country of origin has a claim for so long. After that expires, whomever can mount a salvage operation has a legal claim to it. After so many,
so that's what I'm saying. But even in that sense, let's put something in a similar. Let's say that there's a tragic, horrible incident, and a bunch of different people from different nations all over the place are on this ship, and like you said, they pull it in, and of course, they got to do whatever with the dead bodies. That's kind of where I'm looking at this here. Wouldn't all these other, countries, if that were to happen, would be getting involved to, extradite their bodies and take care of the business that way? I mean, that's why it feels like it's very disconnected from everything, but everybody knows about it. It's very strange to me. I don't understand what they're trying to do with it.
The only thing I can point to, and I'm not an expert in this field, is maritime law. Maritime law says whomever the ship is, whatever country the ship is registered to, that is who's responsible to. That's the government that is responsible.
So that's why the Romulans are in control of it. Okay.
I presume that maritime law doesn't extend to human beings on the ship. They would be repatriated to the country.
That's what I'm wondering about.
Origin.
Yeah.
I know Borg drones are a kind of special case because they're technically not people anymore.
That's what I mean.
To something else, but they are alive, and as people like Picard have proven, they can be converted back into humans who can go on to live normal lives.
It would fall upon the Romulans to send these people home. That's what if like I said, if we were to just take what we know about maritime law, those people would be in the custody of the Romulans, and the Romulans would be responsible for sending the Andorians back to the Andoria, and there was they were responsible for sending the Tellarites home, the Vulcans, the Klingons, whomever. It just shows you how little thought they put into this. Jeez.
Well, yeah, we're putting more thought into it. Yeah.
Yeah, this is where I'm a bit confused about, like, where do the Romulans stand in terms of them being a galactic power? Because at the moment, it's like the series started off and it's implied that, the Romulan homeworld's been destroyed and Romulans are now like the refugee trash of the galaxy, kind of just moving from planet to planet, looking for a home. Whereas you get something like the Cube, which is still within Romulan space and like it's under their jurisdiction now. That implies that the Romulan Empire has still got like a large functioning government that controls areas of space. So which is it? Are they a bunch of refugees now, or is it still? Do they still have an empire? And if they do, why are the refugees not just resettled within the empire? Why are they moving to places like Earth and stuff? Why do they need the Federation?
Oh, yeah. These are all the questions we were asking early on, too. That's the thing. It's like, I don't think they put nearly as much thought as we are putting into it right now. And then, like Gary says here, but they were relying on the Federation. The real Romulans would be prepared, not Kurtzman's Romulans, though. And that's the truth. I mean, that's the problem. There's no thought put into this. Like, because that was one of my biggest gripes when we got to that episode, is like, you have all these people that are supposedly proud Romulans, but they're living on this planet like a bunch of losers, waiting for Picard to come back so they could belittle him and fight with him, or what? Because why wouldn't they have done something with their lives?
Remember that episode of the Orville when he was when Ed was banging the Krill chick and he had no idea, and what happened at the end? I mean, he said you should be going to prison, but we're going to turn you over to your people. And even like even when he killed everybody on that Krill ship, he goes, "You'll be taken into custody, and we're going to be returning you to Krill, to the Krill homeworld." Yeah, like I said, that they actually put some thought into that. This has no thought being put into anything. There's just every question they attempt to answer just opens up more questions.
Right. I mean, I imagine if there was a big Borg cube, or if you put it on Earth terms, if there was a ship with people that could be cured for whatever it was, and they're not really dead, are they? Then there'd be an outcry if they weren't returned to that world or that country. You know what I mean? It would be an absolute nightmare of anti-government propaganda and shit. For the government failing to bring home the survivors and blah, 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 right?
That's what I was getting at. That's my whole point, was like, I feel like there's just such a disconnect from this where, like, no, wait a minute. Every civilization and everybody who could possibly have any, involvement, even though it was in Romulan waters, you've got all these bodies that aren't technically bodies. They're humans because they're living. I mean, not humans. They can be revived. So it's like, it's a whole different situation than if they were all just recovering dead bodies. Like I was trying to get from Rob. It's like even more complicated than that. So it's like, you would think there would be so much more interaction with this. I don't know.
You can go even further with that as well and say, like, this isn't just like a regular ship. Like, if we're going to apply like the kind of the maritime principle to it, this is a warship. This is a Borg cube that can destroy fleets and assimilate planets, right? And they haven't even put any real safeguards in it to prevent it reactivating. Like 7 of 9 reactivates it, and they're like, "Oh shit!" Like the cubes come back to life. Like, why don't you have bombs placed throughout it that you can detonate if this sort of thing should happen? Like, you must have realized this was a possibility. It would be like having a warship that you discover adrift, and it's like, well, we'll just leave all the ammunition and everything on it. Like, I'm sure nobody will try to take over that warship.
Well, not only that, yeah.
Yeah, not only that, it's like it's a drone ship that could be activated at any point.
Exactly, yeah.
That's what I was going to say, is all you need is one member of the former collective to go, you know what, I missed the collective. I'm going to restart this son of a bitch.
I called this right back from the first episode when they were on the cube and they were starting to examine the Borg drones and converting them back into humans, that sort of thing. I was like, I fucking guarantee at some point in this series, that cube is going to reactivate and the drones are going to start assimilating people again. And everyone's going to be like, oh no, totally didn't see this one coming. You know, and here we are. It's happened. Like, I'm surprised they've waited this long.
What was that thing though when all the Borgs were trying to get that Romulan chick and they just sort of went zombie instead of assimilating her? What the hell was that?
Yeah, they were just kind of hitting her, weren't they? It was
weird.
Weird.
Kind of pawing her and like, what are you doing? Are you trying to eat her? Are you going to eat her?
Yeah. Well, I suppose none of them have their assimilation gear attached to them anymore. Like, because they've been converted back into sort of semi-human. And so they don't have anything that they can use to like inject her with the assimilation kind of probes or whatever. So I guess they were just.
Don't they have that throughout their body? Can't they just spit on her or something?
I don't know how it works. Like, I'm sure, like in the movie, especially in First Contact, and it's like there's like these little probes that will come out of their cybernetic arms that you just inject into someone's veins, and suddenly they've got that stuff going through them.
Yeah. Assimilation tubules or whatever they called it.
Yeah, and it didn't seem to take very long either. And like Gary saying, like I said too, I missed the collector. I'm just gonna restart this sumbitch. Next thing you think they'd have like a halfway medical recuperation center where they would take all the Borg away from the ship.
Yeah.
You think that might be a good idea?
And you'd think after all this time they would have just like dismantled this ship to the point where it couldn't, just reassemble itself. Like we've learned everything we can learn from this thing. But right? It's like, no, just leave it as it is. I'm sure it'll be fine.
Yeah. That seems extremely short-sighted. Especially going back to how we've seen the Borg in the past. Just. It's all it takes is a couple of them and they could start taking over the ship and blah, 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 right?
Yeah, they must realize what a danger they pose. Like, they wouldn't be this laid back about the whole situation.
No. But, I mean, I guess it all comes back to Kurtzman not caring, not giving a damn.
I don't think they understand it. I think they're just in and out for a paycheck. They want to throw a lot of stuff on their resume. They want easy work. They want to start up a show and let somebody else do it. And I come in and collect a whole lot of money for developing all these series that they don't understand or care about or like. And then they move on to the next thing. That seems to be his MO. Look exactly what he did with the Dark Universe. He's done this before.
It's not. I don't think it's that Kurtzman doesn't care. Tom, didn't you talk to a couple of people that really say, "Oh, Kurt, you don't understand. Alex works really hard." People defend him. He's just not good at what he does.
No, it's just because he's a yes man.
He's a yes man. In my opinion, he kind of comes off as somebody who says yes, boss, but doesn't actually do anything. I've worked with plenty of them in retail. They just keep getting promoted up and up and up because they say the right thing to the right people, even though they're absolutely, utterly useless. And he seems like the type who will do something vindictive, in my opinion. I gotta say, in my opinion, just if he gets annoyed by somebody enough, if he gets irritated. This is why this is just one more little piece that I've been kind of contemplating about the whole Walter Mosley thing. It's like, okay, well, Walter Mosley probably was on the list anyway of people that told him a little bit too much about what he didn't want to hear about and was probably making him feel inexperienced or not incredibly intelligent. And this is just all theory at this point for me, but it just seems like he would be, you know what? Well, we won't call him and see if he's okay if he quits. If he quits, let him. One of those types. I've had managers just like Kurtzman in retail and stuff, and that's just exactly the same type of thing that they do over and over again. They just schmooze the right people, say yes to the right people, and then the people who are actually doing anything are expendable, especially if you question.
He's a corporate stooge.
Mm-hmm.
Is what it is. He's a corporate stooge. He's a yes man. Like you said, he'll do exactly what you want him to do, but don't expect him to do it. He'll do. You tell him what to do. Alex, do this. Yes, boss. And that's it. Don't expect him to do anything outside. Any thinking outside the box. Don't expect him to do anything that is of any real quality.
Not only that, we have instances where they are so lazy. Okay, should I show this now? Should we get into this? The Shutterstock thing. I'm going to try and share these if they work. Let's see. StreamYards doesn't like to work with Firefox, so we'll see how this works out. See if I can get these up first, and then you can see what I'm talking about here. If not, Mecca maybe can share them. They used basically some Shutterstock images for their effects.
Was this the Android thing?
Yeah, the Android and the Fox. Let's see if I can bring this up here.
Yeah, I'm screen sharing.
Are you in it? Okay,
yeah.
thank you, Mecca. Yeah, here's this one.
That looks so samey. That just looks like they traced it.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
All right, and then the next one here is, let me find it.
Yeah, there's like two parts to this one, I think, but if you can, I don't know if you can get them together or not.
Yeah, here
the replicator. Yeah, all the replicator is a 3D printer, but
yeah, here's the Fox.
Yeah, this Fox shows up in that flash sequence.
Yeah. They also showed a giant American map because America's a thing apparently. Because America, Fox bad, America, yay, Fox News bad. We're so edgy and fun and perfect. And
yeah, look at that first picture there. That's the exact same.
We're
picture.
so edgy.
America, fuck yeah.
This whole show is ran by like a 12-year-old getting on a mic in Call of Duty and just screaming the N-word because who's gonna stop him? That's all.
What the hell is wrong with you people?
That feels like anyway.
Can I just say I really enjoyed the scene where Picard was talking to Admiral Arsehole when she was a hologram in his window.
Admiral effing hubris.
Yeah. Oh, it was amazing. Honestly, I was hoping she would say it again, but no, it's when he's laying down the law to her a little bit, and it's like, this is a planet of synthetics, and if you don't respect their lives, then, I don't even want to be part of Starfleet anymore. And you think, oh shit, he's actually discovered his balls again. And then she just chimes in with, Picard, shut the fuck up. I was like, oh God, put him right back in his place yet again.
You know what's sad, and I said this to Mecca before the show, is that joke could have worked had they not had the fucking hubris line.
Yeah.
Because you would have allowed her to have that one joke to say that one time, and it did kind of come off more natural there, and you would have laughed at that moment because she's like, shut up, I'm giving you what you want. But then you have the original fucking hubris line, which was totally out of place. And then you had in the next episode, the one you just got done watching, where Agnes says, I can't remember what she says, but she's like, I fucked up everything or something like that or whatever. The way she says it comes off so unnatural. It's like, you guys are just trying to shove the F word in here anywhere you can. Because they even had another, like somebody else said it too, and I can't remember who in this episode besides those two. And
I think it was Rios that said it. Maybe.
Yeah, Rios, I think it did. Yeah. And it's just why? It feels so out of place. And a lot of times you don't really need it. There's so many times you don't need it necessarily. I mean,
I think it's Star Trek generally. You don't need it. It just feels out of place and wrong within the context of Star Trek.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the
world. It's the world that it all takes place in. It fits in this world, but it doesn't fit in Star Trek.
Yeah, it's like when you saw Daj in the first episode and she's with her boyfriend and they say like dude and stuff like that. It's like, do you really think people are going to talk like that 300 years from now?
Right.
That's not how language works. Like, that's why they kept it really generic in TNG and Voyager and all that sort of thing. They had very generic language because that's they wanted to play it safe. They didn't have people using like euphemisms from like the 21st century because they knew it would be bullshit. People wouldn't carry on using those kind of terms.
Yeah, just like the Star Wars sequels and then some of the prequels when George let a few of those isms kind of stick in there. Like, this is such a drag. Like, that's really made me cringe when 3PO said that.
Yeah. or Last Jedi when you start getting Yo Mama jokes.
Yeah,
like,
every one of them. That's what I'm
yeah,
saying.
it's like,
There's too many
fuck
of them to
off.
go through. That's the problem. Yeah, so I don't mean to pinpoint on George on that one, but no, that one's at least an easier one to pinpoint. The sequels are so full of them, and that's this whole show. And I think even Annie Trecker and Gary have pointed that out too. Is a hot tip and other little isms that are like you would not do that, and how the kid has like basically a cell phone. I mean, there's just all these little things that are just like, no, that takes us so out of the Trek world because Trek was so far beyond this. It's funny how they wanted to their excuse, at least, besides it was not the 25% thing. Of course, they won't admit that, which all has to do with merchandising anyway. So I'm not getting into that. But they're all like, oh, we want to futurize everything and make everything look better. Well, then why do you keep putting stuff in there with buttons and crap like that 3D printer for the food replicator deal? And other stupid little shit.
Yeah, the other thing that sticks out for me is like when they're on the bridge of the starship and instead of having actual physical control panels, they've got these weird floating holograms that appear in front of them. Right? And it's like it's essentially just a bunch of lights floating around in space, like in front of you. And you've got no feedback, as far as I understand, on when you're touching it or when you're controlling it or whatever. So it's like, how is that a viable method for controlling something? Like even the touchscreen control panels on the Next Generation felt a bit weird because it's like you don't have physical buttons that you can push or levers you can pull.
Yeah,
it's just a screen. But this is like next level bullshit where it's like I don't even know what I'd be interacting with. I would have no idea what I've just touched or what button I've pressed or anything. But they've done it because it looks cool. And then they have Picard who's like trying to use it in this episode, and he's like, I don't know how to use this.
That's because Kurtzman likes Iron Man. That's why.
Yeah.
No, I'm not kidding. Between the costume that she was in the last episode last season of Discovery, that whole time suit, the interior shots all look like Iron Man. The suit itself kind of looks like Iron Man. And then here you go again with all this stuff where everybody's pulling stuff out and whipping it around and spinning it here and doing this and that. The whole thing like what Tony does on in the movies. It's like, oh God, that's what it makes me feel like when I'm watching this. Like Kurtzman don't have an original bone in his fucking body, does he?
He rips off everything.
Like it.
He rips off.
And then City of Solitude brought this up too, and this really bothered me. Don't forget the 20th century music in Rio's room. Why does everyone in the future now listen to 20th century music? I was thinking that too. I'm like, are those fucking LPs?
Yeah, they were.
In
he
his
had a
box?
he had a vinyl player. Like what?
And then
It's
then he
good
starts
to-
playing
it's
the
good we've
record
still
and
got
shit,
it.
and I'm like, oh.
Yeah, we've still got hipsters in the 24th century. It's brilliant.
I'm surprised Rob hasn't said anything about that yet. I'm waiting for that. Yeah. Maybe it's because we actually kind of like the Rios character. I don't know.
Oh, I don't
I
like
like
him.
him. I just fucking
Or the actor anyway, or whatever.
Yeah,
Oh, the
they
actor's
obviously thought this actor is good. He can do multiple accents. Let's just have 6 of him, and we'll have all these different holograms that do like all the different versions, like the Irish accent, the Scottish guy. Of course, the engineer has to be a fucking Scottish guy because of Scotty,
Yep.
I can't do it, Captain.
It's good they had
They did that on Discovery too. And what's his name had to pretend to be the engineer, Captain Lorca, because they had Tilly had to be Killy or something when they went into the mirror universe. And he's like, disguise your voice. You're known here or something. I don't remember what the crap the thing was.
That was actually kind of one of the most clever things they kind of did as a throwback. But here it's just kind of, I don't know.
It's a little blatant.
Yeah, a little
like
blatant.
everything.
And I hate to say Discovery is actually better than Picard at something, but in that moment it was, I guess. I don't know. There is a few moments here and there, I guess, but
Remember, the bar is very low, Tom.
I know. Well, the problem with this is the same thing we have bringing up the Star Wars sequels is the difference between Discovery. Well, you had a couple characters in Discovery that are getting kind of quote unquote ruined from the classic series, but you can ignore Discovery. You can ignore Discovery and it doesn't matter because it's not like William Shatner's in it. It's not like, Leonard Nimoy's in it or anything like that. So, you can ignore it and it cannot exist in your canonical world in your head. This is a little bit more difficult because you have Patrick Stewart, you have Riker, you have all these other characters, Data, that we know. And and they're still alive and all this other kind of crap. So again, we're stuck with a situation like with, Luke and shit, where we got characters getting ruined over the hubris. And I love they love to use that word in this show. Notice they used it again in this last episode, because it was the hubris of humanity that brought on
it was the hubris of Maddox.
Or Maddox, that brought on the
Hubris
bullshit.
of the writing is what's killing Star Trek.
That's that music for that clip, Tom. That's the music.
Yeah, they're so ridiculous with the show. They don't realize that that's exactly what's wrong with this series.
Well, no, this series is why I actually made this. This is why I made the little puppy.
Oh. Can we watch that instead of Star Trek?
Right.
That's brilliant.
Oh.
And that's this whole show. It's like minimum effort from the start. It's like the least amount they could do to give us a Picard series. It's like the hundreds of millions of places you could have took this. And this is the shit you give us, really. And it's not... Go ahead.
No, it feels like you could probably condense all of this into like 2 hours. In terms of like the amount of time wasting that goes on and the amount of actual plot that we've got to deal with here. This is like 2 episodes.
Oh yeah, well we were just saying before you got here, Critical Drinker, even though, the whole Riker's cooking show was kind of whatever, you could have started the series there, because he gives you everything. He gives you everything you need to know right there. You don't need to watch all freaking 6 preceding episodes. Just watch that episode. He gives you the entire plot right there.
Yeah. Why did Riker's episode have to revolve around food?
We were saying it's a food porn thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
People like cooking shows.
Well, it's almost like, I don't know, Jonathan Frakes is a little bit tubby these days, like where they just like, I'll just have him.
He's just like, I gotta fucking eat while I'm acting, or I'm gonna die.
It has to be pizza and wine and shit. Living the good life. I don't know.
It was probably an excuse for them to build the oven and shit, because that's what they wanted to make one night on the set, was just some brick oven pizza. And they're like, well, we can put it into the budget of the show. There you go. Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, we'll just have ourselves a little siesta afterwards. Perfect.
Pretty much. That's what we were wondering. We're like, yeah, that's a little out of place and weird for to hang this whole episode around the making of this pizza. And it was so much the center of the show too. Like everything kind of revolved around it. It was really dumb.
But what was the actual point? What was the point of that episode?
It was to...
There was...
You want my honest opinion? The whole episode was to try and get Picard back to the whole, like, the way he was on the ship and dealing with shit. And it was stupid because Picard, first of all, you have the scene that really pissed me off, because there are a lot of great scenes between Patrick Stewart and Deanna and Riker and shit like that. But the problem you have is everything that the show's hung on, and that's this fucking Soji bullshit. And that scene where she's like talking to Soji, Deanna is, and she understands Soji and everything, which is what she does. That's her old job. She was the ship therapist or whatever you call it. She was the head doctor, the shrink or whatever. And so she's understanding Soji. So then Picard comes up, says that, the crap to her about, oh yeah, then we're just going to torture you and all this other shit. And then she, pushes him and all that bullshit. And she's like, you fucking deserve that, you asshole, you horrible white male, in so many words. No, that's not how Picard works. He would have just been like, pizza's ready. And as soon as Soji would have walked away, he would have been like, so what do you think? And he would have consulted with Deanna like he always would have. And she would have told him, this is what she's dealing with. This is what's going on. Even though Picard would have already fucking known this at this point. But, we needed this scene to have Picard be a bad guy. That's all it really was. And to make Soji a victim.
Right.
Yeah. This is what I keep coming up against with this show. Is like Picard doesn't act or talk or think like the Picard that I remember. He's like a different guy. And Patrick Stewart, God bless him, always gives a good performance, but like he's not acting like the character he used to play, and his decisions that was what you gave there was a perfect example. Like Picard wouldn't have fucked around and joked around in a situation like that when it's someone who's extremely fragile. He just wouldn't have done that.
Right.
But they did it here just so he could make a goof and then he could get told off.
Right, Landis. Riker's wood stove proves that Home Depot exists in the future. Oh, jeez.
That is the frustrating thing about that episode. Like, you know, Riker and Troy and Picard have just got this brilliant chemistry together, which is what you'd expect from actors that have been working with each other for 20 years or whatever. And that's great, but they've just got fuck all to work with because they've got this crappy plot that just has nothing to do with any of these characters, and they've got nothing to play off. But you can just sense that they're enjoying being around each other again, and it's just nice to see them interacting, even if they've got nothing useful to say.
Yeah, that's just it. Yeah,
I guess the point of the entire episode is just to get Deanna and Riker in there. That's it.
That is it. Yeah.
Yeah.
They said they weren't in it originally. They were added later.
Yes, just to bring back the nostalgia dollar people who are like, oh, I need to be sold on this, but just Picard isn't enough. Oh, Riker's in it, Deanna's in it, 7 of 9. Okay,
Yeah.
now.
Well, didn't we hear that 7 and 9 got beefed up too?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
She was only supposed to be, I think, in 1 or 2 episodes originally. Now she's been in, what, 4 or 5 almost?
Yeah.
Now she's a really strong female character.
God.
You know, it bugged me when she came in and she's giving Picard all this attitude and she's drinking hard liquor and stuff. It's like, what the fuck is this? Like, this isn't 7 of 9. She wouldn't do stuff like this.
Well, that goes for every character.
Well, and somebody said this earlier. It goes back to, and Rob loves this, the whole darkening of everything. Everything has to be dark and serious and gritty now. And, you know, nothing can have any kind of light to it or hope or anything like that.
Well,
and when you got a character like 7 of 9 who is kind of probably should have more of a hopeful. You have that whole thing where they just drag her down. She like lies right to Picard's face. She's like, yeah, I'm getting better. Smiles. And then the next scene, she's killing everybody.
Yeah, mind if I borrow a couple of phaser rifles? Yes, please take them. It'll be fine.
I trust you.
Yeah. No, there's no wholesomeness, I guess, to anything now. That's the thing I always took from the original Star Trek shows, is that they had a wholesome feel to them, and you know, it's not that everything always had a happy ending, but you always felt like the writers had good intentions, the characters were righteous people, and they were good people. But now everyone's shades of grey and dark and depressed and conflicted, and it just feels like a real downbeat kind of universe.
We already had Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I love this. Kavit Shea says, what will Guinan first say to Picard in season 2? She'll say, you're nothing but a white man. It's all your fault. That's it. Yeah. End of discussion. You're a white man, old white man. It's all your fault, Picard. You did this.
You've got too much privilege, sir.
You're too privileged.
Oh, yeah. Oh, brother.
I'm just waiting to see how they might shoehorn in characters like Geordi.
How was my whoopee? Was that a good whoopee or was that a bad whoopee?
No, Captain, my main man. How y'all doing?
I'm Whoopi Goldberg.
Did you ever see there's that SNL sketch, Love Boat: The Next Generation, actually, with Patrick Stewart?
No, the first thing that she said it when she got on the set is, "Where's that pizza Riker was making? It looked good." I'm just kidding. Food porn.
Yeah, this whole desire to show them, oh, they're living the simple life. They're washing dishes. They're making pizza. Yeah, I don't need to see that. I know how people live today. I don't need to see them living like we do here in the 24th century or 23rd century, whatever the hell it is.
Well, Riker's a character I can almost kind of see him doing shit like that. That was almost one of the few things that wasn't necessarily out of character for Riker. He seems like the kind of guy who would do that.
He's a rustic kind of guy, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of makes sense. I always see him as a Captain Kirk type character.
Exactly, yeah.
It kind of did look. It looked like the cabin from Generations.
Probably was.
Yeah.
Probably was.
Save money.
I smell
I
eggs.
I always got the impression as well, like things like replicators, like it sort of implies like the food you get out of them or the drinks or whatever, like it's never as good as the real thing, but it's just there for convenience. That's why
Well,
they have
yeah.
them on starships, because it's like, well, we don't have time to make actual pizzas here and now, just replicate it.
And then we had that whole bit with Agnes and Maddox where they're like, she's like, I don't get it. You make all this stuff out of the replicator to bake the cookies yourself. So but it tastes different. He says he claims it tastes different or whatever and all that stuff. And yeah, it's just,
And that was ripped off from Miles O'Brien and Keiko.
was it?
Yeah, that instance. Miles was telling Keiko about how his mother would make haggis. Your mother would touch raw meat. Oh yeah, she'd never use a replicator. I'll make you haggis. He's like, yeah. They were sitting down to dinner and they were talking about growing up and how they never used Miles never used a replicator. Keiko wouldn't dream of even touching food with her hands.
God, I still got to get caught up. I feel so bad that I'm so far behind.
Oh, you shouldn't trust that guy with culinary fuck, I forgot my train of
Culinary thought.
He doesn't know shit about food, basically, is what I'm trying to say. 'Cause he likes MREs. That's his favorite food.
Meal ready eats.
Yeah.
Well, they're shelf stable, I suppose, so it's a good thing to have in today's environment, since society's on the verge of collapse.
He says that in one episode. It's like, okay, dude.
Well, what's funny is we even got pictures of like LeVar Burton on set and a couple other people. It's like, why didn't you put them in the show?
Michael Dorn.
Yeah.
Well, you guys
Michael
were
Dorn.
out lying, saying, "Oh yeah, Picard, Riker, and Geordi are on the bridge," or whoever they say.
I honestly think it's the same reason that they didn't put Luke, Leia, and Han together in the new Disney trilogy, because they knew that amount of like original characters that everyone loves together at the same time would just completely overshadow the new characters that they're trying to bring in, because no one gives a crap about them because they got no real personality.
Well, Mecca, I think
Same deal.
I think after talking to Critical Drinker and Undoomed, your fears are correct that Picard has become a guest star in his own show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, we kind of figured. We kind of figured he would be. That's the whole problem with this whole with any time they try and bring in. They were trying to bring in nostalgia characters to get older fans on board, because they can't. These people are incapable, in my opinion. I gotta say, in my opinion, all the time, of creating characters and stories that make sense, that people care about, that aren't just disposable entertainment that you can just put on in the background while you're on Twitter or playing video games or doing whatever. And they don't like the fact that our stuff was better, and they're resentful from it. They're resentful for it. They're resentful of us that our characters are better, that they can't do it as well, and then they get pissy and they call us all a bunch of ists and phobes.
Yep.
Rob, you can jump into.
Puppy.
Well, puppy. Oh,
Gotta break it up.
Can't use Michael Dorn because he won't be on that show with their. They screw themselves out of even bringing in the Klingons now, because I think I don't think they really anticipated the huge backlash that they were going to get before the show even started by changing the Klingons. Because when they went and did it in 2009, it wasn't so drastic, and B, we didn't really care because, it's a different universe. And then they learned, because of all the research that you guys did, I think, that the toys weren't selling, so they can't really market all this stuff, so they have to change it, and they have to bring in the older fans, or else their show's going to completely fail. So how do we get the older fans? We reference Spock, we bring in Klingons, but they're changing the Klingons. Oh, well, we don't tell them yet. They'll just live with it. They completely underestimated Star Trek fans, like the fans who pay attention to the details. They underestimated us. And then when we started complaining, they are like, "Oh, you're just a bunch of racists. You're a bunch of sexists." And that doesn't work with Star Trek fans.
Yeah, I think with the show,
fans, because Star Trek fans have, an encyclopedia, literally, of all the times and instances that Star Trek was diverse and, progressive, etc. But they don't understand that. They went into a franchise they had little to no understanding of and appropriated it for a quick dollar to pass the buck onto the next thing, thinking it would be an easy franchise.
Oh, it's gonna be a win. Yeah.
I think this is the key difference is like, when you come to change the designs of races or ships or anything like that, Star Trek up until 10 years ago was pretty strong with continuity. There was a good sense of like, okay, this is how Klingons look, this is how Vulcans look, this is the history of these different races, this is how they all fit together, this is how their various ships function and all that sort of thing. And it was generally pretty consistent, and you knew where you were with it. And that's, I guess, what longtime fans are going to appreciate. It's like, they understand this world and they've got a good feel for everything in it. But then you start bringing in the Kelvin timeline, you start bringing in Discovery, all this other random crap that diverges massively from everything they've had before, and they're going to be like, "No, I'm not buying into this. This doesn't feel like anything that we had before." And I don't blame them for not wanting to purchase any of the merchandise for it because it's garbage.
Of course, you were going to get those saying, "You're just stuck in the past, man." No, it's bad. It is very, very bad. There's no hiding it now. You could initially say it was, oh, well, you're just nostalgic for the past. You want the old Trek back. No, listen, people got used to the new casts and new crews on different, and it took a little while getting used to Janeway and Tuvok and Harry Kim and Chakotay and all those guys, but you did because the show was actually pretty good. People don't like Voyager, but this, actually is aged a lot better now. When I watch it on BBC America, it actually holds up. I'm like, hey, this isn't too bad. This is a lot better than I remember.
And it doesn't contradict anything. It's not like there's things which happen in Voyager where you're like, oh, well, that totally undoes all this stuff that happened in Next Generation or the original series or whatever. It's all part of that same pretty universal continuity. It's when you get to like New Trek where it's like it's going back to like before the original series, or it's like resetting the timeline and all that crap. You're just undoing everything that people appreciated. That's why people don't like it. And it's like you're replacing it with stuff which is inferior to the original. So it's that double-barreled, problem of like undoing the continuity and replacing it with shit.
Mm-hmm.
How are people meant to react apart from just saying, no, fuck this, I don't want to watch this crap?
Tom, what do we always say about when you deconstruct something? If you deconstruct something, you better put something better in its place.
Well, 9 times out of 10, deconstructing something on its face normally doesn't work well. You need to take something like, like Watchmen. Granted, they were based on actual characters, but they were pretty much original characters. They weren't taking Superman and a Batman and doing what they did to the characters in Watchmen to them characters. Why? Because that would just be detrimental to those characters as a whole. I mean, you don't want to do that to those characters. That's why you make your own characters to do it too, which is fine. You want to introduce a really dark Star Trek with your own characters? That's great. Quit connecting it to shit that we love, though. Go ahead and make your dark Star Trek horror in space movie show thing. Nobody cares. Nobody will go watch it, but nobody will care. It's when you attach it to stuff that we care about, or you try to break down a character that we care about. I mean, that was, to me, and I know some people love the movie, but the fundamental problem with a Man of Steel was that's not Superman. There's so much there that's missing, and they broke down the character to the point where, it's not really Superman. Donner got it right. No, it's not because of a nostalgia thing. What it is Donner understood you don't change Superman. Superman's Americana. Superman's baseball and apple pie.
He's a 1950s Boy Scout.
Yeah, you keep him the same. The world around him changes. That's what happens. So that's why Lois Lane's a much more independent woman. The world around him is much different than what Superman dealt with in the comics. But he, in his own way, was able to stay the same character, true to what Superman was, without destroying what that character was. Not everything has to be a teardown of what a character is. I'm so sick of that. You don't need to see it every single movie anymore. It's getting sick. Or TV show.
You tear down Luke Skywalker, you make him into a coward. Like I said, what we're left better. You tear down Jean-Luc Picard, we're no longer left with the, noble, stout, courageous captain who's always a moral paragon. We're left with a doddering old fool. What you're leaving us with isn't any better than what we had.
Yeah, and I feel like
I think a lot. I think a lot of these characters, whether it's the starship captains, whether it's Superman or whatever, they're things that you aspire to. Like you aspire to like these noble aspects of the human spirit, whether it's courage or whether it's compassion or whatever it might be. They exemplify everything that's great about humanity, and then deconstructing them just leaves you feeling like, well, are you trying to say that just humanity is a bit shit generally, and that we should all be despairing because we're fundamentally weak and a bit useless and selfish and all the rest of it? That was what made Star Trek so good. It gave us something to aspire to. It wasn't our society as it is now, but it's what we could be, and if we take all the best parts of who we are. But now, we've taken that away. What's good about it? What's to aspire to? What's meant to inspire us in this show? There's nothing.
Right. And that's what I think the fundamental issue that they forgot about Trek to begin with. And it's not necessarily about sticking to what Roddenberry did or what Berman did. It was just the fundamental, point of, in Trek, we had gotten so far past any hang-ups, and we are so far past all of our normal bullshit that we have, expanded out into space, and now we're trying to help others and other races and other places. And, we're not hung up. And even though some of the writers, like we interviewed Melinda Snodgrass, and she didn't like that there was no conflict allowed between the characters. I didn't want to say anything because obviously I respect her, but it's like, no, you don't have to necessarily think that's a bad thing, because that's where all the conflict comes from outside. And the great thing with characters like Data, where you can play with that a little bit. And since he's not a humanoid character, he's humanoid, but I mean, he's not human or an alien. He's an android. So he's, there's a little bit more you can play with there as far as, how that character is treated. So there's ways you can have fun with this. And Orville proves that. It proves time and time again that you can take what, the fundamental idea of what Star Trek was built on and do something modern and different, and it not be the same old thing, but at the same time feel like Trek. Even though it's not licensed Trek, it feels more like Trek than what we get. But that's our mantra all the time, it seems like, here.
Right. It's interesting that you bring up the Orville, because before we had the Orville, the thing that was unique about Star Trek was the fact that it was positive. And, every single science fiction show or movie is like dystopian and everything. And then we had Star Trek. That was the thing, right? And then, now they want to make Picard and everything like that into Battlestar Galactica, which is fine for Battlestar Galactica, but can we at least have one that is positive? And I guess that's the Orville now. We only get
pretty
one,
much,
apparently.
I guess. And I mean, I'm not saying, like I said,
not optimistic anymore. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, and I'm not saying you can't do something dark within the Trek universe. Nobody's saying that, but there's just a way of doing these things that they aren't the same old thing, but they're still part of the same, big collective. MCU has been doing it for over 10 years. I mean, and if they can do it with several different characters like that, I mean, love them or hate them. I mean, still.
The original Borg were pretty dark.
Man. But I'm tired of the Marvel formula, man. The MCU's so boring. Everybody's a good tissues, man. That's
I'm tired of this dark shit too. That's so boring to me. This dark dystopian. I'm tired of people not getting along.
Well, the thing is, the next generation was able to have conflict between characters, but it wasn't the same kind of conflict that we'd experience here in our culture. It was a conflict of different ideas. People who had different perspectives, just born from their different experiences in life.
And ethical
how to
dilemmas.
approach. Exactly, that was exactly it. And some of the biggest ones might be about Starfleet wanting to dismantle Data, for example, in order to understand how he's worked, how he's created, so they can make more of him. But it would mean destroying him. And then obviously they have to have a big debate about, well, he's got value as an actual sentient creature, not just as a tool.
Right.
All these kinds of things. That's conflict, but it's people who are enlightened and smart and well-meaning, but who have different perspectives over what the priority should be.
Exactly.
That's where you get great Trek, is where it's like ideas that have no strictly right or wrong solutions. It's just a case of, well, let's look at the different ideas, the different points of view on this one.
Oh, look at
That's
the
where it was
Orville.
interesting.
Look at the Orville does it so well with the, their whole, what's Bortus's race, where half of them are born women probably, and they just change their gender. You don't have a right and wrong answer because it's somebody else's society, but you can continue the discussion and be like, yeah, this is what Star Trek would have done. They would have found a good happy medium to save as many people as they could and to fix what they can.
Without, going against the Prime Directive and things like that.
That was sticking their dick in somebody else's culture.
Yeah. I really enjoy the stories where there's no clear right and wrong.
And that's what Trek did best. And that's what Orville is doing now. And at the same time, Orville is unlike anything we've seen in Trek, even though people compare it so much to The Next Generation. I think that just has more to do with the aesthetics of the show. But and some of the shows themselves do have that feel, and you can tell Seth MacFarlane is obviously a Star Trek fan because he holds true to those standards. But the lovely thing about the Orville, and I know it's funny to use that word, is it's like a Star Trek show, but we finally get to see the toilet. We finally get to see the guys who aren't the best of the best. These are the last guys you call to get anything done. These are, this is and they're going to try and do this with Lower Decks, but that's all it's going to do is come off as a ripoff of the Orville in the end, we think. And when we tried to ask them that at STLV, they just kind of sidestepped the question. But
there was, I remember a few Voyager episodes that dealt with the really shit crew members that nobody wanted to work with, and it's like they get a few episodes where they have to kind of work together a little bit, and they overcome their limitations or whatever. And again, it was that same thing of not everyone on these starships is super competent and super amazing at their job, particularly on Voyager, where it's like, well, you can't just swap out crew members who aren't performing well. Like, you're stranded. They've just got to find a way to work. And yeah, they found ways to do this and show people who weren't the best of the best.
Right, that was the Good Shepherd, right? That episode.
I think it was, yeah. I'd forgotten the name. You also have guys like Barclay from The Next Generation again, who's gifted but unstable and really unpredictable and stuff, and not the kind of guy you'd want to work with necessarily. But again, he's there, and he's got to find a way to overcome his issues.
Yeah, and they did have some of that in the beginning with the Maquis, I think. Because they have to run him around the ship and try to get him to exercise and whatever it was.
Yeah. So they got things like that. They found ways to do that. It's just like the main characters, the bridge crew, were obviously very good at what they did. They had to be, because you don't get to that position without being good.
Of course.
All right. Well, I want to thank all our super chatters for being so patient. We got to get to those quick, but before we jump into them, I want to make sure our panelists don't need to jump out or anything before we do. But we do need to get caught up on those real quick. If you guys want to stick around, that's totally up to you.
Cool,
I'll probably jump out. It's getting kind of late over here in the UK.
I figured as much. Yeah.
My brain's kind of turned to mush.
But no, I appreciate you showing up. I mean, I didn't expect you to. I know when we talked earlier, you had given, said you were pretty much burnt out on it, and I totally understand and respect that. So you showing up was more than a joy and a happy surprise. It subverted our expectations in a good way.
Always good.
Yeah. Very nice.
All right. Thanks, guys. I'll see you later.
Take care.
All right, let's get on these super chats. I apologize for taking so long to get to them, guys. They're going to be a little out of order to begin with. Mecca's been helping me try and keep up with them. But so hopefully I got them all though. But just if you think we missed one as we get going, let me know. But just a reminder up front, they are a little out of order. So Scarpad's Comic Trek sent us $1.99. I think we read this one already. Gilardi's main contribution episode 7 was puking. I think we did that one, but yeah, pretty much. That's all because she kind of did that episode. Was puke and cry and try and kill herself like Mecca. That's when you said that, Mecca. Try and kill herself, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we got those. We got that one. Now there was I don't think we got this one. This is one where we left off. Mech 1164 said $1.99. Why does every Troy female lose a firstborn? That's a good question. Are they cursed, Mecca?
I think they didn't realize. I don't think they paid much attention to it. I guess I don't know.
Maybe it's a trope. Maybe it's a trope like everyone's an orphan.
Mm.
Yeah, I don't know. Rob, you got anything to that one?
Not really. No, it's just I don't know. The writers are gunning for those Troy kids, you know.
And this one, my mistake. We didn't get the name of the person or the amount that they sent, but I do remember it, and I can't recall who it was that sent it. So I apologize if you're still in the chat. You can say, "Hey, that's mine," and we'll give you credit. But it says, remember when Andre made Tom and Rob watch Discovery? Well, touche, Andre, touche. Yeah, now we're trying to make him watch Picard. But yeah.
Well, to be fair, who wants to watch Picard?
Right, who does? So yeah, I apologize. I didn't grab the name on that one. That's my fault. I trying to keep track of all this, and I don't have access to the chat, the super chats. So I got to keep them in the private chat here. But yeah, so thanks to Mecca for helping me keep track of all these. Matt G sent another $5. Everyone talks down to Picard. Remember Picard talking down to Kirk in Generations? Ha ha ha! What happened? LOL. Yeah, Kirk did kind of bitch slap him back a little bit, didn't he?
That was a long time ago.
I know.
Don't remember much about it.
I mean, they had a good playoff with each other in that. I mean, I'm sure there was a joke to something we were saying at the time, so I apologize it took so long to get to that. So yeah, if the joke probably didn't land as well, I apologize, Matt G. So yeah, Zachary Shaw then sent us $4.99. Do you guys think Patrick Stewart wants to kill Picard? I wouldn't be surprised. What do you think, Rob? We've said this for a while. We have a feeling that either this season or show or whatever, or next season or whatever, when they decide, it's going to end with his death, probably, if they don't kill him sooner. Even.
Well, supposedly it's picked up for a second season, so.
Well,
I
it's
gotta
in
think
plans
that
for a second season.
Yeah, I gotta think he's got it.
That's the same thing with the Pike show and everything else. I mean,
well, I believe Picard's season 2 is going to happen before Pike does. Honestly, you want to know where I think all these Pike rumors are coming from? Because people saw him up in Canada or whatever when they were filming, and I think he's just doing short treks or something to do with Discovery. They're not filming anything yet. They haven't gotten that far, that's for sure. Or they would have announced.
all these sources are quoting year-old articles. That's what.
And that too. They're mixing two things together. Yeah.
Yeah.
I keep saying there's no way in today's climate that they'll have a Star Trek series led by a white guy who's going to tell everybody what to do, unless they make a total and complete buffoon.
Well, not only that, it'd actually be giving the fans something they want for once. God forbid they do that.
Yeah. Well, remember, we can't get what we want. We got to get what we have to get what we need. Remember that article?
Yeah, which we're gonna drop. We're gonna redrop the restaurant portion of that soon. So for those who want to be able to share just that portion of that video, we're going to drop that again soon. But Sister Harrow, who I apologize profusely to if she's still in the chat, she sent us a $5 super chat. I dropped out after episode 2. These writers are soap opera writers, and that's actually an insult to soap opera writers. They're not futurists such as previous writers that truly had imagination. Yeah, and again, it doesn't even necessarily mean you have to be a Star Trek fan to be a writer on the show. You just have to be a good writer and understand the world and kind of the rules in general, and you'll be fine. I think, like I said, other writers have proved that in the past. It's the caliber, I think, that they're getting, and I think Shaban proved that he's just nothing but a dud. I don't know.
Well, I've listened to that whole Deadline interview with him. They have that podcast, and according to him, he seems like somebody who can do novels and is a best-selling author because he can finish writing a novel and complete it. Because I mean, how many people start that book and then they never finish it or whatever? But he can actually turn in a finished novel. He says the right things to the right people, but he has no idea how to run a series. He has no idea how to put dialogue in actors' mouths. He has no idea what these characters are, and he's never seen Voyager. So he has no idea what he's doing with Jerry Ryan's character, or if he's seen it, he's certainly danced around every single mention of that and said, "Oh yes, but Data and Spock, and they're very non-emotional." He doesn't know. He's never worked with actors. He's never worked with scripts on television, it seems like. And they gave him showrunner because he's a best-selling novelist. They went and got probably the most unqualified person to run the whole series. Get somebody who can run a TV show. What other shows has he done? Nothing. He just went from novels to this because they thought, oh, well, they need writers. They need good writers. Yeah, you need good writers. You also need people who can have experience running a TV show and have people experienced, putting dialogue in actors' mouths in the context of a script, not just in a context of a novel. Two different things.
Yeah, there's a lot of different variations there. Did anybody else have anything to add to that, or?
No, I guess it's just like when Rian Johnson got the Star Wars movie and Red Alert Media said, wow, they just gave it to some guy. So I guess that's what happened in this thing too.
All right.
People got all over me. People got all over me though when I wrote the Han Solo documentary, and I called Rian Johnson a largely unproven director.
Really?
What are you talking about? He directed Brick and Looper, man. He directed an episode of Breaking Bad about a fly.
Okay, well, Spielberg had directed a bunch of television shows, a TV movie, and a film before he did Jaws. Okay, and Sugarland Express was a pretty mainstream film for the most part. And Duel was considered one of the best TV movies for the longest time.
Right.
So...
Well, Jaws also wasn't an established property, you need to give something established to somebody who's not going to come in and still trying to find their own voice and their own rhythm and their own signature, Because a lot of these
not in something like Star Wars, yeah.
What?
Right, and that's the argument Andre always makes is, yes, we want, fresh takes on, movies. We want, cool things like The Joker. We want things like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood or Baby Driver and whatnot. But we don't need these kind of people trying to make superhero movies within a universe. Now, give them a superhero movie or something like Joker where it's its own thing, yes. But don't expect somebody like, what's his face who tried to make Ant-Man before, Edgar Wright, and try and let somebody like who's an auteur director like that. Obviously, Feige made the right choice, whether you like Ant-Man or not. I mean, yeah, sure, a Edgar Wright movie would have been cool, but in the end, it has to fit in the MCU. That's the thing with the MCU is it's like a TV show. You have to have a showrunner. Same thing with that's why we bitch about Kathleen Kennedy is something like Star Wars, especially if you're going to expand the universe like this. You have to have somebody with a clear vision and who's a showrunner like type person like Kevin Feige who can do this. And Star Trek needs somebody like that.
I have a clear vision, Frank. Don't you know that?
Clear vision, my ass going out the door. See ya.
Okay, that's enough. All right.
Yeah, he's trying to get away from her. All right, let's get caught up on these super chats here. Unless there was more you had to add, Rob.
No, that's it.
Or did you say something? Somebody said something. If it was on Doom, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I didn't say anything.
Okay, all right. I just heard noise, so I wasn't sure who. Okay, we left off here at Scarpads Comics Trucks, $1.99. This show has 20 producers making big money, no pity. Yeah, that's a problem when you have more producers than you do actual cast on the show. We brought that up a few times.
Yeah, what is it with that? Like they had 20 producers in the intro, nothing else. And if you go back to Voyager or something, No producers. The only thing is just created by. That's it.
Well, I think, yeah, but back then it was Rick Berman and whoever else, and that's about it, probably, yeah.
And
Yeah,
Braga.
yeah. Yeah, it's just the only thing they listed is the created by. That's it. Other than that, it's just, like the actors and maybe the music. I would certainly think the music is more interesting to find out who that was than some guy producing some shit.
Well, it's funny how we get so much flack for what we report, and I don't recall any show having this many producers, this many showrunners. I mean, most shows don't have those kind of issues, or if they do, it's the only other famous ones I can think of is like V, like the original V, when Kenneth Johnson or whatever left the show in like the second season, I think it was, and then the show just went to shit.
Mm-hmm.
Or whatever it was, and then they had him come back to do that final movie or whatever. I can't remember how the exact went down, but something to that effect is like one of the last times I can. And even then, it's like very rarely do you have like a JJ's well known for leaving. That's just because he can't finish. I feel sorry for his wife. I still do.
Well, they could clear up all of this shit if they just came on any of these shows, tweet at us, do something. But sitting here in silence while they have all their little lackey troll accounts coming at us full force saying, "Oh, here's an article about a Pike series. Here's this. Here's this. Here's this. Oh, here's all these 4chan leaks." One interview, one tweet could clear all of this up.
Like Kevin Smith did, yeah, kind of.
Just like Kevin Smith did. One tweet could clear up any of this. We don't have to be your enemy. We want these shows to do well, and we're here. Use us as a tool to help you guys succeed. But they don't want to do that. They're so busy saying, "Oh, okay, boomer, you're just old. You just are a crybaby because you don't like the gore. You're just a crybaby, professional crybabies." Suck my dick. I'm not a professional crybaby. I'm trying to help you people and provide a more entertaining content than you guys are on Star Trek. And they don't understand that. I get so annoyed at these people and the people that they attract as well. Because a lot of the people that they end up attracting to defend this crap are just a bunch of bullies themselves. I might be a crybaby, but your show is attracting bullies, and I'm tired of the shit. I'm really tired.
I'd rather be a crybaby than a cry bully, which is what most of these people are, because they choose to go after people personally over a TV show or movie.
Exactly.
And welcome back, Bill. You're back just in time for the end here. We're just trying to catch up on these super chats before we finish up.
Yeah, I've been listening on my commute home, and I have to say it's been quite good. And to add to your dinner table analogy that you mentioned a few minutes ago, the author of that BBC article just doesn't get it. Now we talked about this on another stream, which is the need is not what they think it is. The need is in the restaurant. You need the wait staff to be hygienic and wash their hands. You need them to know how to cook a meal. They need to know how to season it right. They need to know how to get the right ingredients. They have to be fresh. They can't be rotted or spoiled and over seasoned. Like those are what the needs are. Like you have to know how to make stuff to begin with. You can't just have the same plate that had the exact meal that the customer wanted 30 years ago, and then just throw on your new thing on top of it and be like, it's still the same because the flavor is still underneath or what have you. That's what the fan base is asking for. We want you to serve us something and make it correctly, as opposed to exactly what we want in every.
I got to read this article.
Which article? Which one is the new one?
Yes.
I don't know which article it is, but you've talked about it throughout the stream, so I need to read it.
Let me find it. Oh, well, there's a podcast for Shaban here. Sorry, we've got a lot of bots in chat, so I'm also going through and hiding them here.
Well,
let me find some.
I love big Asian butts, and I cannot lie.
The Deadline. Okay, the Deadline podcast was the most recent one. Let me find it, and that's the one with Shaban.
Is that the one with the restaurant analogy that I keep hearing about?
Oh, the restaurant analogy is their own video that they did.
Yeah, the restaurant analogy is from Rob here at Midnight's Edge.
Sorry about that.
The article in question is from, I believe it's a BBC publication, right?
Yes,
Oh,
it was from
okay.
BBC. Yeah.
All right, so maybe I should just watch that instead of asking what it was about.
Actually, it's a really great video. Yeah, I do recommend it.
Yeah, definitely watch it.
Right.
But we're going to be
I'll do
dropping.
that.
There's a section of it we're going to be dropping just so in case people want to just share that portion of the video, the restaurant portion. We're going to put that out in its own video here soon. So,
Okay. Then I get it.
yeah, check it out though. I do recommend it. Mr. Londell's Groovy Movies sent us $2. I think Commodore O is a ZZ Top fan.
Oh, that'd be funny.
Pair of cheap sunglasses. That song's gonna be stuck in my head. Stephanie Littlepage. I'm so sorry, Stephanie. Sent us $5. Santiago Cabrera. He was the lead in the CBS series Salvation. So anybody who's curious as to what you may have seen him in prior to this, there's your answer. All right. Sister Harrow sent us another $5. Thank you so much. He said, great stream. Of course, you didn't have to do that, Sister Harrow, but we appreciate it. Edward Pereno sent us $4.99. Guys, the Romulans are both the Empire and refugees because Picard needs a brave Romulan warrior who hugs his mommy and serves lost causes. Yeah.
The state of the Romulans in this show is so perplexing. It just, what is it? Are they refugees without infrastructure, or do they have this massive army and are still able to uphold the neutral zone treaty? Like, what is it? It can't be.
Yeah,
both.
well, that's another thing that they kind of forget about. They're always talking about this damn treaty. Okay, so do they have a government still? Where's the Romulans and all of this? Why
didn't somebody just send them a Tom Petty LP? Since everybody still plays LPs. Hey, you don't have to live like a refugee. Come on now.
Or his dad is Ned Petty, right? He did stuff too. No, wait, I'm thinking of another. Tom and Ned.
The Romulans have the signs in English, so I'm sure they'd be able to understand the records too. Humans only. Make sure you put it in the language that they can read.
Stargate 404 sent us $2. Click here to find cute krills in your area. Cute krills in your area. That's what I meant to say. Yeah, the sex bots. Gotta love the fucking sex bots in the thing. Yeah. And Adam Wolford sent us $10. Be like a ship with hundreds of people where in a coma, warships from an unknown nation, but it was found by Brazil. Everyone that is in a coma are from several countries. They would send each person back. Yeah, I think that was kind of what we came down to when we were talking about the whole maritime law thing. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Because, yeah, I'm like, it seems like it's the biggest, worst kept secret in the universe other than Section 31, but then everybody knows about it all of a sudden. So it's like, okay, why isn't everybody involved then? Just the Romulans. This makes no
just
sense.
Imagine the families that would be going absolutely apeshit trying to get their loved ones home.
Exactly. I mean, like I said, put yourself in this situation. I mean, it could almost be compared to a similar situation that was going on currently. But anyway, Jay Bird sent us $10. Midnight's Edge, as you said before, so many of today's writers lead insular, privileged, uninteresting lives. That's why their writing is so contrived, derivative, and superficial. Yeah, I mean, it could probably be compared to, like, you know, musicians, and Mecca knows what I'm talking about, especially probably because this is about the time she checks out on them, I'm sure. You know, you get these up-and-coming musicians who have 2 or 3 really kick-ass albums, and then all of a sudden they just go all corporate and crappy, and they don't live a life like they used to, so all they know how to sing about is their fancy cars and, you know, women and, you know, drugs. That's about it. Instead of
money for nothing and the chicks for free.
Chicks for free, exactly. Yeah. It's the same kind of thing in Hollywood, and either that or these people like Brie, who have grown up with a silver spoon in their mouth their entire life, who just don't understand the real world, period.
I can't breathe without Brie. Stinky cheese.
I just see people, and I
Get after stinky cheese.
Oh, we have a song we wrote.
To be fair, most people don't know. But most people are dumb anyway. Not everybody here in chat, except the sex bots.
Sex bots are dumb. Sex bots are great in becoming a reality. They're the next AI. They're going to take over. That's what's it.
Oh.
What the hell is wrong with you people?
Futurama did a joke like that. That was brilliant.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Next super chat is from Maskman Core TM. So it's trademarked. $5. I remember Dr. Paluski having conflict contradiction to many crew members on board the Enterprise in season 2 of TNG. Yeah, but isn't that kind of when they pushed Roddenberry out too?
That was second season, so he was kind of between. I think he was like on the edge at that point.
Yeah, because I know that was a big thing that was a conflict between a lot of people, and I just think they misunderstood it. And even though she didn't like it, I think Melinda Snodgrass totally understood it when she wrote that episode, Measure of a Man, because that's exactly, I think, what Roddenberry was getting at. Even though he didn't like that episode, I guess, but go figure on that.
Weird.
Which is strange because it's like that's totally up your alley, but he's like, no, Starfleet's right. I guess is what she told us. I don't remember if that was in the interview or not because she was talking a little bit more about some of the people afterwards. But yeah, that was kind of funny. I thought kind of strange. He seems like he'd be a strange person to make happy, and he's very contradictory in some ways.
Well, yeah, he is. There's a speech he gave at one of the Star Trek conventions. I think it's recorded somewhere and on like some specials. But he talks about how he's trying to pitch the Bible to execs and how they wouldn't like it and what they would change. And then he goes on later talking about like how he just has to change the names and it'll still be like considered marketable because it's sexy to have like betrayal and love and all that stuff. Like he was a weird guy, but I think that's more to his influence and how Hollywood functions and his own little his own flaws that prevailed throughout his life.
Yeah, but he was a visionary, so we can't take that away from him.
Him and Gene Alcoon and DC Fontana and.
Yeah. Anybody else have anything to add to that before we move on to the next super chat?
I miss Diana Mulder in Star Trek.
Now I'm actually caught up to the ones I think that are on the board here. So that's the one we just had. And let me see if there's any more. We got one more here. Tycho TMA1 sent us $2. Tomorrowland was flawed, but had a point. What do you guys think?
I haven't seen Tomorrowland yet. I do need to. I mean,
I haven't seen it yet either.
Remind me.
Are you talking about the movie, or is there an episode called Tomorrowland? That's where I'm confused. Because I have the movie, but I haven't watched it yet. That's the one with Jude Law or whatever I think is in it.
I think George Clooney's in Tomorrowland. Is it
George Clooney? That's who it was. Yeah. But unless you're talking about an episode, then I'm not sure which episode that would be. You'd have to specify the series. So. Yeah. Outside of that, unless you can clarify that, I'm not sure. I don't know if anybody here has seen it.
Don't remember seeing that.
All right. Well, we'll give them a chance to catch up. But in the meantime, while we're doing that, Undoomed, I think, is this the first time we've had you on, or this is the second time? I'm trying to remember now. I know we've tried having you on a few times and it just didn't pan out, but it's been so long. I can't remember.
I think it's the first time, right?
So yeah, well, we want to welcome you to the channel, of course, even though I didn't do it really well in the beginning. But yeah, welcome to Midnight's Edge. It's awesome to finally have you on.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. It's I've enjoyed your videos immensely.
And while we got a second here, why don't you tell everybody out there who may not be familiar with you what your channel is all about and what you cover and all that kind of stuff?
Well, I mean, that's kind of tough right now because everything is about partisan politics, and I'm not really that into that. So basically, the channel started out as just trying to find funny stuff and having a laugh at hilarious things. And lately, I've been doing more like documentary work. I just latest thing I did was a pretty long documentary about Mars. So I'm not sure how I'm gonna continue forward, but I'll probably still do some laughing shit at laughing stupid and intertwine that with some documentary stuff.
Well, yeah, if there's ever anything though that we're talking about and you're into and you want to jump on here or meet, just let me know. And if not, there's always a few people I generally have in my little roster of possibilities for meets.
I love jumping on, but no, if you're talking about some movie I hadn't seen, I wouldn't have come on.
Absolutely. Oh, of course, that's why I asked you. Well, you've seen you in the chat here, so I figured you'd seen it. So yeah. But yeah, so definitely you're welcome anytime, and we want to encourage all you listening out there to check out Undoomed, and of course check out Script Doctor as well, who's also almost pretty much like our fourth man, I guess you could call him at this point.
Well, yeah, I mean, I love talking with you guys. You're a riot, and you always have some pretty cool opinions and perspectives that I don't always think of in the forefront. And it's good trading of information, and also it's fun, and I just can't help but want to make myself available for you guys.
Yeah, so Undoomed, I don't know if you're familiar with Script Doctor, and for those out there who may not be, he's incognito, but yeah.
Right. I've seen you on live streams before, so at least I know that much.
Yeah, so he's somebody who's in the industry, but yeah, incognito. So we call him Bill.
A riot. That's what Frank and I call it when we used to make love. We don't do that anymore.
We never did that. That would insinuate that I loved you at one time and didn't marry you for your money.
How could you be so cruel, Frank?
Well, that's pretty much my situation as well.
Oh, sorry. For those who don't know, we have an ongoing bit on Midnight's Edge After Dark with Frank Marshall and Kathleen Kennedy, and that's what that was all about.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like the 21st century. It's the 21st century depiction of the honeymooners for Hollywood.
Pretty much.
The Hollywooders or something.
Yeah, Frank Marshall likes to hide out in our bathroom and do coke and try to sell Congo and get Congo 2 made. So, yeah. Congo.
You need to like Photoshop a 10-gallon hat onto that picture.
What's funny is I think it was World Class Bullshitters. They were talking about Alive on their last stream, and I popped up and it's like, "Hey, Frankie directed that." For those of you who don't know, Frank Marshall has directed a few movies: 8 Below, Alive, Arachnophobia, and of course, Congo.
Is that the one where that the one that they nuked the place?
I'm trying to remember how it ends.
No, there's a diamond and a laser.
It had the laser, the laser beam.
He's so
Laura Linney
proud.
shot a laser.
With the killer apes.
He's so
Mutated
proud
ape.
of that movie.
Oh, okay, yeah. I'm totally mixing it up.
I think even it was from a Michael Crichton novel, not one of his better ones, but anyway.
Yeah.
Also, anyway, I want to, and of course, check out Mecha Random. Of course, check out Mecha Random, the queen harpy of the internet, of YouTube, whatever you call it. You know her thing, Rob.
The one, the only, original, blah blah blah. Yeah.
You do the shtick, Rob. I don't.
The only original YouTube harpy. She had
the thing that you say when you introduce me.
She has an Emmy, an ESPY, a Tony, a Bammy, a BAFTA, a SAGgy. She's an OBE and an Earl, which makes her an earlobe. Number 42 in your program, number 1 in your heart, Miss Mecha Random. Your favorite YouTuber.
I don't even remember that.
He's the only one who can do it. So check out Mecha Random as well. And of course, we want to thank everybody who's listening and for all the super chats. At one point, we had like over 1,000 people listening. That's awesome. Hit that like button, hit that share button. Check out all our panelists. Of course, check out Critical Drinker if you haven't checked out Critical Drinker as well. So let's get some music going, Rob. And I want to thank everybody once again.
We get some music? All right. Okay.
Yeah, you had it.
I had it? That was it?
That was just playing the truck music. Whatever, that works too.